And the go live button.
I am recording.
We are live. You're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. I'm Conlon.
And I'm Nathan.
Or tell your friends you're listening to the Verhoeven Effect podcast. We have another very special episode. We have the 1995 movie Strange Days. Nathan, do you have a history with this movie?
Yes, I do. I was one of 3 people who saw it in a theater somewhere in Grant County, Indiana. Like 2 days after it came out, because I thought, oh, this is going to be cool. It's got the guy who played the psycho from Schindler's List in it, Angela Bassett, and everyone's favorite toxic girlfriend in the 90s, Juliette Lewis. It's like, how could you lose with this one? And it's got a vaguely sci-fi theme to it, and it's, as advertised from the producer of Terminator franchise and Aliens.
And the director of Point Break.
And the director of Point Break. And Near Dark.
Near Dark, which I gotta see.
My favorite vampire movie.
I think that has weird streaming rights, so I gotta check that out at some point.
Oh, okay.
There's that and like Nomads, which is like McTiernan's first movie, which is like another weird vampire movie that I've never seen.
I think I've seen both of those. I remember Near Dark because of the cast was like crazy.
Yeah.
Like every cool actor from through the 90s was in that.
This came out October 13th, 1995, so exactly 1 year and a day ago.
Yeah, weird.
Came out on Friday the 13th.
How old is this movie now?
28 years old.
Almost 30 years. Oh my God. Yes, I remember after I watched this, I walked down to Sam Goody and bought the soundtrack for it.
Huh.
The CD, because I thought the soundtrack was cool.
Yeah, because this is like a pretty monumental bust for a movie.
Oh yeah. It was a. Like I said, I watched it with 3 people, which surprised me because, everyone knew who was in this movie.
Well, I don't know. It just seemed weird. It's like, why are you putting a sci-fi movie out in October? So I don't know why that is. This would seem like a good like weird February and or August movie. Like, why is it here? Which I get a thing for that. So I don't know. This is Fox put this out, and Fox is like, I don't know. They're such like a fail upwards company. It's like it seems like every success they have is like not because they intended to have it happen. It just landed in their lap.
Yeah, they're just like, hey, so what are we doing with this movie? It's like, I don't know. We got this big spinning board we're gonna throw darts at. Let's see what happens.
Hey, what's George doing? I don't know. He's making some kids movie. And then Star Wars happens.
Yeah. Making some stupid like alien movie, like rubber suits. It's like Star Trek, but all dirty and half as intelligent. It's like, maybe it'll work.
He wants all the toys rights. It's like, fine. He's never gonna make money off
cool.
that.
Yeah, go ahead. I got a bridge. I'll sell him in Manhattan too.
I mean, really, like, there's no like great movie studio. I guess if I look at Warner Brothers, I'd say that would be like they seem like they're trying to make good movies. Fox never seems like it's trying to make a good movie. They seem like they're just putting out movies. But if you go through their history, it's like, oh yeah, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. But like, I don't think they intended to make that movie.
Yeah,
it's always that accident. So,
well, what was it like? The guys from South Park were telling was it Universal they were working with to make the first South Park movie? Paramount. It was like, us doing the work and you doing nothing equals good movie. Well, please leave us alone. So everyone's like, why didn't they make another South Park movie? It's like, have you ever read what they went through to make the first one? Those guys will never do that again. I don't think they can drop enough acid to de-stress.
I don't know. They did something weirder later on. Like, you see what they've, because you had all these different streaming services, and they have like special like 1 hour specials across like 3 different streaming services that they sold to different streaming services.
No, I really haven't followed them.
Yeah, something because you had Max and like South Park was on Max, but then they're also like on Paramount because like Paramount had like the movie rights deal. So it's something where it's like, well, the show's on Max, but the movie's on the Paramount network. And then they made like a TV movie about like streaming services fighting each other, basically explaining the situation. They're like, why are you different in two different places? And it's like, because they're giving us money to make anything.
Yeah. Yeah, they're just coming to us with money. Yeah. Okay. I didn't really know about that. I just remember the stories about making the South Park movie. And
Yeah.
whenever I think about, because I've never made movies or anything, I've just always been a fan of watching them and the personalities involved in them. And I have the directors and the writers I like, and none of those people have said, "Oh, thank God I worked with a studio executive." Never once heard that. Never.
No, no.
So it's like, huh, this must be really crazy. And then the South Park guys who have such a succinct way of putting things and just talk, even though they come up with some of the most bizarre stuff you've ever seen, they think just like normal people. Like they're not just up their own ass a lot of the times.
Well,
And
no,
it's
not
like,
always, because they're also just ruthless businessmen as well. But
well, yeah. That's why
uh,
when they came out and said basically, it's like, oh yeah, we're just right wing Republican business people. It's like, yeah, you are. I get that. It's fine.
well, at some point they just owned their own stuff. Like, and it was like basically like Comedy Central was just putting it on air because like they weren't even like producing it. Like they got the production down for South Park so so down quick where they can make them. They can basically turn around and make an episode in like 2 days if they had
Yeah,
to.
something crazy like that. Yeah.
Because it's all just now it's just all on a computer and like everything's like if you don't make new assets you can forever make a South Park episode.
Yeah, they
uh,
haven't changed the style. It's not like become more smooth and anime like as time goes on. It's the same thing.
I mean every once in a while they do those specials where they'll branch out and kind of make like because they even did have like an anime episode where they get into the imagination of the characters and they kind of did like more sophisticated animation, but that's only like
Is that when
every
they
once in a
bought
while.
like the ninja weapons at the fair or whatever?
Yeah,
Yeah, that one was cool.
yeah.
But anyway, those guys had the most coherent like studio experience. That's like the way they explained it to me was like, oh yeah, or not me personally, but the way they explained it was like, oh yeah, this makes sense.
Well, and there's even worse stories of people taking their own money and trying to make a movie with it, and just nothing happens. Like they
Yeah.
just lose their ass. There was no safety net. They get blamed for it, even though they didn't cost the studio one dime.
Yeah. Never work in this town again. It's like, I just wasted my entire fortune. It's like, doesn't matter. We philosophically don't like it.
I mean, that's like the weird thing because it's like the filmmakers are basically told like never put your own money in your work. And it's like, oh, so never believe in it. It's like I didn't say that, but you know what I
Yeah.
mean. And then it's
Well,
like
believe all you want, just don't start writing checks.
and that's what studio executives are doing as well because they're not necessarily paying the movies. They're like going to some investment group and selling them on a movie so they pay for
Yeah.
it. um
That's why everyone is angry. It's like, oh, it's another superhero movie. Why are they doing that? It's like, well, because somebody has to put up the $300 million to make it, and it's so you gotta like sell things to investors that can work. Yeah.
um yeah, I think the only time like independent film like worked out for somebody like really was like when Mel Gibson made Passion of the Christ. Like
Yeah.
that like he put the money up for that. He made it. It got rewards. It had a self built-in audience. So it was
Yeah. I
just
was
like
gonna say,
it's like yeah,
gotta tap into those Jesus bucks. You can do that.
he made
Not
a
everything's
radar
tapped into
movie.
Jesus bucks. Yeah.
um, yeah, like, and I'm pretty sure he never had to have to work again after that. I don't know what the financials were on that, but I'm pretty sure he got like the majority of it.
Yeah, I don't know what the breakdown is. I don't know. I know that churches were like buying out theaters to see it. And I watched it and I was like, yeah, this is a very vivid description of a crucifixion. I could see this being totally legitimate. The one I really liked was Apocalypto. It wasn't
Yeah.
even in English, but it was just a weird story, but it was like really cool.
Yeah.
That's the Mel Gibson stuff where like he's doing his own thing that I like. Passion of the Christ was cool too, but it was also like just it's not something that's like, hey family, let's get around and watch this. It was a man being tortured to death for an hour and a half, which is it's what happened. It's true. It's not like an exaggeration or anything, but it's like ugh.
I mean, he's a great filmmaker. He's just a
Yeah.
weird person.
Yeah, well, you hear about his childhood. It's like, oh yeah, Mel Gibson makes sense in the way he is. It's like, oh, I can't believe he did that. It's like, yeah, I can. He's just a kid from Jersey whose dad was a religious fanatic.
Yeah, so I was trying to look up like the date itself, and it's like, was it significant to the movie Strange Days? Like, did it open against something? It's like it came up against like the fourth week of Seven coming out.
Okay.
um, but it didn't. I don't know. But I don't know. It opened like in eighth place, and like the other movies that came out were like Jade and something else that was like easily forgettable. So it's like, so it feels like just like Strange Days didn't get a push. But I also think both. I think both Johnny Mnemonic and Virtuosity came out before this, so maybe it was like this future virtual reality stuff isn't gonna work. So
Yeah.
they might have just stopped the advertising hose on this before it even came out. um, and then so yeah, we ended up doing two 1995 movies back to back, and so I made an Excel spreadsheet about like, well, how many 1995 movies have we done? And so we've done six 1995 movies. It's our most it's our most sawn year.
A big year.
Well, I mean, most of that's bolstered by three of them were from our our what was I calling it? Our Chroma Crystal series. Before
Oh,
we did all the movies with like color in their name. So three of them came out in '95.
oh, okay.
Our second most year is 1984.
Yeah.
Because yeah, let's see what we do for '95. We did Screamers, The Quick and the Dead, Crimson Tide, Goldeneye, Johnny Mnemonic, and Strange Days.
Well,
And then for '84, we've done Threads, Amadeus, Buckaroo Banzai, Red Dawn, and Purple Rain.
we haven't done 1984 yet.
No.
Ah, that's surprising.
Oh, here's where thing. '85, we've done Legend, Red Sonja, and Flesh and Blood.
Okay.
So '85 is nothing but like it's like swords and sorcery movies.
That's our swords and sorcery era, 1985.
We haven't done any movie from the '60s, which I guess we'll fix that next time. So,
Yeah, well, we'll catch up. Oh,
um,
we've done oh, maybe not on Verhoeven. I was gonna
not
say, 'cause I know
Verhoeven.
we did Doctor Strangelove, but okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. We done some older movies. I mean, we did like, oh, what was that British movie that was one of the first ones in color that was done during World War II?
Oh,
Like, was it Captain Blimp's something something or whatever?
yeah, yeah, I remember. Very, very much a movie of its time.
We've done 11 movies from the '70s. We've done, how many is it here? 12. We've done 19 movies from the 1980s. We've done 20 movies from the 1990s. We've done 5 movies from the 2000s. And we've done 11 movies from the 2010s. And 1 movie from the 2020s.
Oh, okay.
Although weirdly, we've done 4 movies from 2011. Which yeah, well, 2 of them had colors in their titles, so that's what that happened.
Yeah.
But I remember when we did Drive, we were talking about like, why didn't that get any awards? Like, it was such a shit year for movies, and we ended up watching a bunch of them anyway. So, so yeah, that was just me doing some data analysis on on our own show. Um, but yeah, so yeah, I believe Johnny Mnemonic and Virtuosity also bombed, so they must have pulled the advertising hose on Strange Days here. But you never know. I don't know.
That could be.
Directed by Catherine Bigelow, who, like saying, did Point Break, like I said, Near Dark, this, The Hurt Locker,
Zero
Dark
30.
30. What was that one? Detroit. Was it just called Detroit?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, she's a great director.
She's
you know, a
also
lot.
James Cameron's wife for a little bit.
Yeah, they were divorced when they made this movie.
Yeah, that's kind of.
And that, yeah, yeah. And, the year she won the Oscar, it was against him for Avatar, and he's never.
Oh, okay.
And I'm not sure if maybe he won the Oscar for Titanic, but I'm not. I don't think he might have never won an Oscar. I can't remember.
I'm not sure.
Let's see here. Let's just ask Google. Has James Cameron won an Oscar? It's like the third one. Okay, yeah, best director for '98. So yeah, it's probably Titanic.
Okay.
Maybe.
Oh, let me see. I'm trying to find that.
It's got to be Titanic. Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're all movie. This is best picture, best director, and best editing.
Yeah, because
so.
he didn't make a movie after Titanic until Avatar. So, I think. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
he did.
yeah,
That
yeah.
was it.
Yeah, he just got in his own world of making. Well, I mean, he made documentaries and stuff like that, and he did a bunch of like sub stuff. So
Yeah,
did
he
a
was doing the sub stuff like a. He wasn't getting killed though. He was.
No, he made it proper. He could only fit one person in there, and they're heavily like, heavily built and all that stuff. It wasn't like what's the cheapest and way we can make a submersible and put the most amount of people in it.
Which just sounds like a terrible idea. Like, hey, what's the cheapest bullet-resistant vest we can make? It's like, well, I'm not working out. Hell with that.
But yeah, Catherine Bigelow's movie, even though you might not. I don't know, she's not like out there being a personality, but she just makes great movies. So,
yeah, I mean, she's like borderline auteur in some cases. Like,
yeah,
it's just, some of that stuff she does is out there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's like
her
mostly
movies are like, how would I describe?
Well, she makes like action movies, and like you wouldn't expect that usually from women directors.
Her style, though, I guess I would call it like visceral.
Yeah.
Kind of. It's like it's very like any action that goes on is like it's impactful.
Yeah.
It's not fun. It's not. It's like oh, this is something that happens, but it's like it's a force of its own.
Yeah, it's not a Hong Kong action movie where like 300 people are getting flung around and like, well, that looks like it hurts. Here, it's like, hey, what can you do to one person's ligament? And it's like you're gonna feel that.
Yeah, you're gonna feel that in the theater watching it. Yeah, she has a very just like an organic, visceral way of filming stuff. Kind of like I guess a more who's the guy who did District 9?
Oh, Neil Blomkamp.
Yeah, Neil Blomkamp's visceral too, but his is like borderline body horror visceral.
Yeah.
Where this is more like just it's like you almost don't want action to happen because it's it's going to be bad, and not bad in a way like it's terrible, but in a way like it's going to be jarring.
Yeah, I don't know. It's somewhere on the level of Michael Mann too. Like I think, like
yeah. Michael Mann does violence that way too, but it's a little cleaner.
Well, his is all about process. Here, it's a bit more dirty. It's about results and bad results. Michael Mann
is cool because like Al Pacino is actually shown reloading the gun. Like you don't see people reloading the gun in a firefight in any movie except Michael Mann's Heat. It's like he's like, oh yeah, I gotta reload it. Then fire down the street with it.
But yeah, so yeah, I remember it was kind of funny when because you thought like Avatar is like one of those movies. It's like one of those movies that basically like almost bulletproof. It's like, well, it's advanced technology so far that like it's almost like it has to get an Oscar just for that, even if it's not a great movie. And then it doesn't, and it's like that's awesome. And against his ex-wife.
Yeah, that's even better.
And like basically like an indie war movie that wasn't like, in a time where it wasn't even a jingoistic war movie.
No. It was just a guy who would rather deal with bombs than the real world.
Yeah.
It's like there was no happy ending there. Like, He disarmed the last bomb, and they all lived happily ever after. Like, nope, we're just waiting for those waves of death to finally consume him. He can go
No,
ahead and go.
yeah, he goes back home and he becomes the bomb.
And then right after that, we do Zero Dark 30, and it's like, huh,
Then that's the rah rah jingoistic
yeah.
movie.
Okay, hold on one second. What?
Okay, which might actually be her most successful movie. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd have to look.
Uh,
I think it was. Just take any of those. I can clean them all. It's all water-based paint. That's okay.
and the cinematographer is Matthew F. Leonetti, which we talked about before because he was a cinematographer for Extreme Measures.
Okay.
But he's done a bunch of stuff. It's like it's an eclectic career. It's like, yeah, this guy is a workman because he's done everything from terrible movies to great movies. So it's like, what was some of this? What's the first one you recognize on here? I did Poltergeist. I think that's the first movie you recognize. I did Poltergeist, then Fast Times at Ridgemont High,
Okay.
same year. What's the other ones I recognize?
I did the Ice Pirates.
Yeah, he did weird. Here's a trio: Weird Science, Jagged Edge, and Commando, all in a row.
Okay.
Yeah, there's Extreme Prejudice. I might have said Extreme Measures. I meant Extreme Prejudice. I did the Dragnet movie. I think we watched that at one time because that movie now has like a weird. It's actually just a weird blueprint to like every kind of like TV and or product turned into movie thing that I think because it's always like are we gonna it's based on we're making a movie based on a TV series, like are we going to treat it serious? Like no, we're going to treat it like a joke, like it's meant to be.
Yeah.
And then like every kind of thing like that, like like every that was the same thing they did with like the Brady Bunch movies and stuff like that, where it was a parody of it. And then like you get up here like we're Barbie now, it's like yeah, Barbie's basically a parody of it. It's a bit more subversive parody of itself, but it's parody. And it made $1 billion. That's like what are you gonna do? It did Hard to Kill. Another 48 Hours. You got Strange Days here. He did Star Trek First Contact. Then he did Mortal Kombat Annihilation, which is one of the worst movies ever made.
That's good. Yeah.
He did Species 2, yeah, for some reason. Star Trek Insurrection, so yeah, Jonathan Frakes must have loved him because he brought him back. Too Fast, Too Furious, the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a
That
good
movie actually
cinematographer.
looks cool. Yeah, I remember that movie has a cool look to it.
And the last movie he did was Dumb and Dumber 2, T.O. Of course, because it's got to be stupid,
Yeah.
which I haven't heard good things about. That's the last movie he did. I don't see a death here, so he must have just retired, I'm guessing, because
Well, he's 82, so it says he's still active, but he's probably like really selective.
Oh, there's one upcoming credit. Let's see what it is. At the Hop, no idea.
Okay.
When rock and roll explodes across the airways of 1957 South Philly, 17-year-old Bobby Petrillo's idyllic life takes a radical turn. No idea. It says here it's a musical. I don't know. It's probably just sounds like some student film thing that he's helping his son out with or something.
Would you put your name on this? It's like so we can get some money,
There was something weird. It was like Jan de Bont and like 3 other like famous people have like their name on some like weird like claymation something that like one of their kids did, and it's like in the Internet Movie Database. I'm like, what the hell is this thing? And it seems like an 8-year-old made it. I don't even know how long it is. It was like super weird. Let's see if I can find it just so everyone could avoid it. So I was always like, what the hell happened to Jan de Bont? because I think he's like considered a cinematographer on it or something like that. Oh, it's not here. Maybe it disappeared. Or maybe it wasn't Jan de Bont. Oh well. Anyways. Written by James Cameron, who I guess I'm not sure exactly what he did, because some of the trivia said he basically did like he gets story by credit, and he has like but he called it kind of a treatment, basically mean like he came up with the general idea and characters and maybe wrote some scenes, and then like this Jay Cox guy came in and basically just filled in all the dialogue, I'm guessing. So I don't know who to give credit or discredit to. um, but yeah, he wrote this while they were still dating. Um, Catherine Bigelow and James Cameron. But yeah, Jay Cox, I don't. He went on to do a bunch of Scorsese stuff.
Yeah.
Well, not a bunch. He did 2 things. He wrote Gangs in New York and he wrote Silence.
Oh, okay. Silence is kind of cool and weird.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, James. You don't really think James Cameron is doing like script work, but like he wrote like Rambo 2, or I guess Rambo First Blood Part 2.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he did. There was a while there he was doing a bunch of script stuff, and then of course if you follow Hollywood lore, he's basically like involved in everything that's ever existed. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, I feel like all the tech stuff in the world was like his. Also, like he kind of wrote it like in the wake of the race riots and the Rodney King beating, which I don't know. I only heard about this like maybe this year, but do you know like the true backstory to the Rodney King beating and why someone was filming it?
No.
Okay, so why someone was there and they caught the cops beating him up is because there were paparazzi there looking to spy in on the production of Terminator 2.
Nice. Really? Okay. Didn't know that one.
So yeah, if you like continue the tape or rewind it, or however it works out, after he watches Rodney King get beat up by the cops, he then turns to like watching Arnold getting on a motorcycle, with a scene where he beats up all the bikers and takes their clothes.
Wow.
So James Cameron had a weird like association with that thing, so that kind of like got wrapped up in his imagination, and so that's where kind of like this movie came out of, where it's like kind of like being a voyeur to something and having it affecting the world. And then just adding a little sci-fi bent on it, and
Yeah,
and also realizing like, oh yeah, like the 2000s coming around, that's going to be a crazy party, might as well take advantage of that before people just start filming that. Let's start guessing at the near future. So yeah, he conceived of this and wrote a treatment of it in like 90 or 91 or such or whatever. So
okay.
Yeah, again, I don't know how much the original thing, because I've heard weird thing. I've heard like the term like story buys, like what does that mean? Nobody knows. And there's another term where it's like a treatment, which again I don't know what that means. Does that mean like we're filling out an outline and we have characters? And then I've heard the term script mint, which like is that less? Is it more? That's like it's like a combination of script and treatment. So I'm guessing that's like an outline with some scenes and dialogue, or maybe it's even less. This is all garbage that you tell people. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, all we got is a story. It's like we can't tell the producers all we got is a story. It's like, tell them we have a treatment. We can't tell them we have a treatment. They know what that means. Like, we have a script mint. Good. They don't know what that means yet.
I've heard the terms like I did a pass on the script. I've heard things that, which I think of that as like margin notes or something.
Yeah. And we know like from comedians like the what do they call it? Where like they come up with dialogue for characters to yell off screen for like animated movies.
Punch up or
yeah, but I think they even had like a newer name for what that was. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, it's basically punch up. So
yeah.
Usually Punch Up, but this is like post production Punch Up, so it's even weirder because like Punch Up is like we need funny lines for our big actors to say, and they have no senses of humor, and our neither does our screenwriter. So why don't you come up with something? um, and so yeah, they'll hire like people like Patton Oswalt to come in to just basically write funny one-liners for people, and get
Yeah.
paid. I don't know, $15,000. Who knows? It's all under the book stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't know. It's
Well, not under the well, probably meant under the table, but it's like you never know what the price is because they can never claim credit to writing it. So, but they're going to get paid a lot of money for other people to claim credit for it. Because there are rules for like you can have 60 people write a screenplay, and you have to like overcome like a specific amount. You have to write over like 60% of the screenplay to really like demand credit.
oh, okay.
So yeah, there are people like, you know, they'll like, yeah, I've heard of people just like going in, getting hired to do a job, and literally just change all the characters' names and add a couple scenes, and then get credit for the screenplay.
Give me money, money, money. I worked on this all afternoon. Like $1,000. It sounds good to me.
Yeah, so but I don't know. Sometimes it's weird, and you know, because there are some times where it's like, well, 6 people got credit for this. It's like, well, yeah, because everybody contributed like 15% to this movie, and it all adds up. And then, you know, sometimes they pull the rules on that or whatever. But yeah, hey, the writer's strike finished too, so there's that. But the SAG strike is still going on, and now they're all bummed out. It's like, oh, we thought we were joining you in solidarity. It's like, don't worry, we can't make the movies anyways. We can write them all day, we can't make them yet.
Yeah, we can still get paid and not have to be sympathetic to you anymore.
Cass is Ray Fiennes. But I don't know. That's got to be a good get. To everyone calls him Ray Fiennes, even though it's like, who's Ralph Finesse?
Yeah.
Somehow the word got out there that his name is Ray Fiennes. Angela Bassett. And,
but do you know what his real name is?
Oh no, does he have an even weirder real name?
Oh yeah, he's like total British, super British name. Ralph Nathaniel Twizzleton Wycombe Fiennes.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And it's like, but I'm just throwing those words together. It could be pronounced differently.
Yeah.
He was born in Ipswich in Suffolk, England. So yeah, but he's got a heck of a name. He's got a triple hyphenated name. I just remember like his breakout thing had to be
What, the Schindler's List thing?
Amon Geth. I mean, that had to be like, or Goth, or however they say that. Because that's what I still associate him with that role.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I probably associate with him with a lot of his bad roles too, because it's like I remember him in Red Dragon, even though that was like he wasn't great in it, and that's not a good movie. It's not even the best version of that story. And then he's Voldemort, of course, but he cut his nose off, so it's like that you just made a bunch of money with that. Or he just like barely had to be in him until the end. So
yeah.
I know he's in that movie that has like a pretentious name that I've never watched it, but I have to, called The Constant Gardener.
Oh yeah, that's the John le Carré adaptation.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of my favorite Ray Fiennes movie. Oh man, there's so many that he did. But there's one he did. Hold on, let me find his film thing real quick. There was one he did that was I love it. He has stage and screen credits you got to go through. It's like, yeah, don't be pretentious or anything, because I'm really going to be into your stage stuff. Not that I wouldn't be, but I just don't get to see it. Yeah, he did one. It's another one of the unpopular Shakespeare plays, Coriolanus.
Yeah.
It was like him and Gerald Butler doing Shakespeare dialogue, but they're like modern army people. Like instead of Rome, It's like modern. It's like, what if this was Rome, but everyone had machine guns and stuff, and
It's just like the Balkan Wars meets Shakespeare.
yeah, yeah. Essentially, it's actually some people really hated it. I thought it was kind of cool, but it was mainly cool, but just watch Gerald Butler like just do Shakespearean dialogue with a mouthful of marbles. That was the best.
Scottish marbles, Shakespeare.
Oh yeah, but it was cool. It was fun to watch. Of course, Ralph Fiennes like stole the movie, but
Yeah. Oh, I
it was.
remember everyone hated Titus, and like you love that because
Oh
like
yeah, I
we
love that.
found the good in those movies.
Yeah, maybe we'll do that.
Yeah, these
sometime.
movies are ridiculous, but there's good in them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about Titus is number one. Julie Taymor is brilliant, and then of course Anthony Hopkins is like, you can give him anything. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, this sounds like it has weight,
Yeah.
It's like, because he's done really bad sci-fi stuff. It's like, oh, Anthony Hopkins is here. Everyone pay attention.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Something's gonna
Red
happen.
Dragon as well.
Oh yeah,
You got a $20 million cameo for that movie. It's like, good on you, Anthony Hopkins.
yeah, make that money.
I'm already in like Mission Possible 2 for no reason other than like, let's give this movie gravitas.
I think he was thinking be in the trailer.
Yeah. I guess we have Act One. We get some weird
Well,
sound.
let's go through the cast again, because we stopped.
Oh, we'll come across them. I don't know if you want to just start them here.
Oh yeah, well, another thing I will say I like about this movie is Angela Bassett. This is
Yeah.
the first time I've ever got to see her act in a movie
Oh
where
yeah.
she's not just some like hard professional woman. I mean, she is in this too,
Yeah, yeah.
but she actually like there's some emotional depth to it where usually she's just like the disapproving boss at the CIA who's
Yeah.
going to give you a chance, or she runs the NASA, or that's like Angela Bassett. Like she's
Yeah,
always
she's
like,
stern through 3%. She's stern through 95% of the movie, and then she has like some heart at the end of the movie.
yeah,
That's usually what I mean, she does it well, but like, yeah, it's
yeah, she's always like the ultimate like, oh, I was in the Clinton administration, and and now I've survived, and I'm the pure essence of that in every Hollywood fiction thing. But in this movie, she's actually like acting and
yeah,
and doing physical stuff too.
yeah. Well, I mean, she's like Lenny's fixer, so she's the one who has her life together, even though it's like her life is actually maybe like really intense and falling apart as well, but
Yeah,
just
just
for
not as
different reasons.
obviously.
Yeah, and then like just like they'll eventually get to it, but she has like like 3 different character arcs, and so it's like, oh good, she got like a whole movie. She wasn't just like some stern background character. It's like, I like her. It's like, okay, well I guess she's gone from the movie.
Yeah.
um yeah, I don't know. It's like and also I guess like it eventually becomes kind of a who done it, and it's great that they got both Vincent D'Onofrio and um no, I'm forgetting his name.
William Fichtner,
No, well, I mean yes, but
Tom Sizemore.
Tom Sizemore, because all right, because then when you get to the end of the movie, it's like, all right, one of these creeps did something.
Yeah, those are bad. I don't know how. But
We get weird sounds and colorful titles. It says 106 a.m. It's actually counting down the seconds, but a.m. 30 December 1999. So this is a movie. Again, this is written in 1990, so it was more far-reaching. And ended up getting released in 95, so it wasn't really like, it's like, oh, so 4 years from now, that doesn't seem much of a stretch. So
yeah,
we got a close-up of an eyeball, and then we got a first-person shot, which there's a bunch of sequences of this movie that are in first person, which the trivia says they also took James Cameron's company Lightstorm Entertainment spent 5 years developing a camera small enough that they could do these first-person sequences.
okay.
So yeah, they got it down to where it was like, it basically looked like a Sony Handycam, but it was running like 35mm film, or maybe it was
Oh, wow.
16. I'm not sure, but and then they put it like on a little Steadicam thing. It was basically, so it was only, yeah, it could fit in the palm of your hand, but then they put it on a Steadicam rig, and then they had like a transmitter on the bottom of that. But yeah, it was it was about the size of this like microphone if you put a camera on top of it essentially. But that allowed people to run around with a camera rather than
Camera following them on a track or something.
I don't. I mean, they had steady cams at that point, like which that you could have just put a steady cam on somebody and have them run around. But I guess those cameras are big. You can't do like the kind of like the hands reaching out in front of the vision thing would be really hard with a steady cam because you'd have to have like 8-foot arms to do that. So this made more sense, I guess.
Yeah, this wasn't quite hardcore Henry or whatever, but it was where it came from.
I remember that Doom movie came out and they were like talking about like, oh, but this is like their first person sequence and it being like a monumental achievement film. I was like, oh, I guess nobody saw Strange Days because yes, exactly, nobody saw Strange Days.
Yeah. You're right. You didn't, you're not forgetting about it.
But not many people saw that Doom movie anyway. So
I don't think I've actually seen that. So
they like a weird like straight to DVD sequel to that movie that people actually found like good. Like not that it's like really good, but for like these straight to DVD movies, it was like oh, this has some production behind it. You don't know any of the actors or the directors or who wrote it, but it's a passable action movie. It's a horror action movie. So I think I caught Mom watching it one time. I was like, what the hell is this? Because she's always watching some weird sci-fi thing where, like, I don't recognize any of the actors. I don't know it exists. It almost looks cool for a moment, but then you're like, oh, this is some weird, like, let's hide money in Russian thing. I don't know.
Yeah. Is this a movie or a money laundering?
So, yeah, it's a shot in first person. Some guy has a device that you see... and he says he's recording, and he has like the mini disc player because I was like in, the 2-year moment that mini disc players had.
Hey, this movie was one of the reasons I bought a mini disc player.
Did you get the soundtrack for this on mini disc?
No, I have it on. Had it on CD, and I can't find it. And it sucks. The rights for this, and of course, everything just disappeared into the memory hole with this movie.
Oh yeah,
like $40 million, so they just never talked about it again.
One of the reasons that we did this movie is because it's like not been on DVD and it hasn't been streaming for like years. It's just been some weird rights black hole. And so as soon as I saw it come up, I was like, because we were finished with our color series, like, oh, we got to do this movie as soon as possible. And just happenstance happens to be like exactly 28 years after it came out. So it's got a lot of weird rights issues. Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I don't know. Did you see anything different? Did you see, like, I don't even know did you see any like music stuff? Was there any music that was not in this edition that you saw or anything like that?
No, it seemed like the original movie as I remember. Okay.
That's more of a thing in video games where they'll have like later releases where like the music is stripped from it. Because that's why they have never done a re-release of Vice City, is because they can never get those rights back from the original video game, at least not for a monumental cost.
It'd be like $1 billion.
Yeah. Because I remember like the Vice City, when that soundtrack came out for that was like a 6-disc set of just like the greatest hits of the 80s.
Oh yeah.
Because I guess at the time that came out, like, there just wasn't 80s nostalgia, so I guess that they just got that for almost the rights for that stuff for like almost nothing. And now video games are so big, it's like oh no, you're gonna pay Hollywood money now for using music. So yeah, it's a car of armed robbers or something. They're putting on masks. They have guns. Yeah, and the guy in the back seats, it's all done from his perspective. So yeah, it's in a first-person perspective. They bust through the back of a restaurant and they start holding the place up. And they open up the register, and the guy's only holding out like four ones, and the guy like lifts up the bottom of the register, like, that's where the money is. And it's still only like, I don't know, $60 in there.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a lot of money.
And they start locking people in the freezer, and I was like, "Ah, man, that's gotta suck."
Yeah. You
Uh,
just
and
killed those people.
then,
You're gonna suffocate.
and then a guy like smokes crack for a bit, and then the cops show up, and that guy like runs out the front, which I don't know if he's because I don't immediately hear gunfire, so I don't know if he goes to surrender or if he's like running from the cops by going out the front door. I have no idea what's going on there. um,
Yeah, I did like that the guy like just stopped to smoke crack. It's like, okay, these are the kind of robbers you're thinking of. I'm just gonna get blasted right in the middle of a
um, and then the other two guys start running away, and this the first person guy with them, and they start running up an apartment complex. I'm like, hold on, is this Chinese restaurant in the bottom of an apartment complex? Which I don't know. I guess that could happen. Like I've never seen it before, but that's I don't know. I've seen business. I mean, you look like Bob's Burgers. There are those businesses where it's like we run a business and then our home is on top of our business. Like I've
Yeah.
seen that before, but not like an apartment complex is on top of our business. And I guess I've seen that. We worked on a at my old job. We worked at a we put in a gym in the bottom of an apartment complex, and it was going to be a restaurant. So I guess that happened. So
Well, they're building the new houses or the new apartments around here where it's the open front ones, where
yeah,
it's like it's multi-story buildings above and down below you have like a Coach store and like a Panera, and it's like, oh, but then like you walk back and there's elevators you take up to your apartment. And I mean those places probably cost $5,000 a month to rent, and I'll never live in one. But
well, Costco has this plan where they're gonna like I don't know if they're gonna do it, but like I don't know, it could just become a news story, so it could be fluff for all I know. But they're basically like talking about essentially like building like conning towers on top of their stores, so it's like so like people like they build housing on top of Costco's.
nice.
And you just like you just never leave your complex. It's like, oh, I just go downstairs and get what I need for shopping, and then I go back to my apartment, and then tomorrow I wake up and I go to work, which is down below a Costco.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Like you work there, you just never leave. It's like, yeah, that the electric state stuff, the Stallhog book is actually going to be where we're living pretty soon. We're just
But it's Costco, and I think like their lowest paid employees make like $24 an hour, so
yeah.
that would be fine living.
I mean, yeah, if the cost was controlled and it's like you still made good money, and it's like, yeah, and it's actually a place you can live with a couple of rooms in it, like an efficiency. That
Yeah.
yeah, I guess if beings were just tumbling towards the apocalypse, maybe that would be a soft landing. Because like
Yeah.
when it finally all goes south, it's like, oh, you just lock the front doors, and now you have all the supplies you need.
Yeah.
As, kill everyone else in the building, and then it's like, okay, this is my Costco now. I mark this out as my own. It's just like the Twilight Zone episode. It's like, I built this bunker for my family, and I'm going to shoot all the neighbors that try to come in now. And then you find out the apocalypse is fake, and you got all these dead Costco employees you put in the freezer. It's like, oh man, I really screwed up. All these red shirts in a big red pile. It's not only visually upsetting, but now I'm going to go to prison the rest of my life.
My bad.
My bad.
Is that hot? Is that hot dog still $1.50?
Yeah. Can I get one of those chickens before I go?
Yeah, so like they run up through like the stairwell, and like they're shooting. I think they're shooting at the cops, or the cops are shooting them. The guns in this movie sound like awesome. They just sound like cannons that like wipe out the recording of the local recording. It's like
yeah, they just wipe out sound for a second. It's so loud. Yeah, it sounds like it's being fired through like someone's firing the gun in like a vent, like a exhaust vent or something.
Yeah,
it's a very strange sound. Which, if you think about it, when you go to a firing range and you have earplugs in, it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it has this tunneling effect. Doesn't sound that way outside though, but
they're shooting inside a building. It's so
yeah.
But like all that stuff is usually done afterwards. But yeah, there were some like weird like everyone had their take on in the 90s on what a gun sounds like, and some of them were awesome and unrealistic, and some of them were like pretty weak. It's like, that's your gun sound.
Wish they were that. I wish they were not as loud as some movies make them sound. Like when the guys are like, "I'm just shooting from inside the car." It's like you're gonna blow everyone's ears. Like I'm firing a shotgun from inside a car at another car. It's like, oh, everyone's deaf now, so congratulations.
I remember the one guy who's like, he had a Barrett 50, on his ranch, and he fired it out of the side of a car, like, he's doing a drive-by, and shot one shot and like blew out all the windows in the car.
Yeah.
And that was with another window open.
Yeah, the air pressure in the car increased, so like 100 pounds per square inch, and just a nanosecond, all the windows exploded out. Yeah, that's what'll happen. Well, my favorite though is like the police chase videos. They don't show these anymore. Sometimes they do. When the guy's like running somebody down and he's just a lunatic in a car, like he's driving on curbs and stuff, just killing people or coming close to doing it. And the cop's just like inside the car. It's like, I'm taking him out, and he's driving with this hand, and then up comes the gun. And it's like, but the a cop cam thing, like the sound starts to cut out when that happens too. And it's like, and his whole front windshield just like spiders.
Yeah.
And he's bashing the car into the guy. And it's like, oh, that guy's never going to hear right. It's the kind of adrenaline that takes, like, this is my end right here. I'm just taking this guy down.
Yeah, that video is crazy, because that's like literally something he's like, you figure they're like, oh, there'd be more appropriate way to do this. It's like, no, the thing done in a Hollywood movie, here's a guy doing it in real life.
Yeah, it
shoot
worked.
Through your window, and it is. And I think that had like a crazy after action report, because it was a crazy situation, because the guy's like, oh, I fired 8 times at him. It's like, no, you reloaded twice.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember that.
Other magazines. It's like, because they were empty. You used them all. Like, what? Like, yeah. I don't remember that. There's a famous report here of a cop dealing with a guy came out of a bank with a sawn off 12 gauge. And the cop yelled at him to put it down or whatever. And this was like this was when it was NBD banks. And they're getting robbed all the time around here. This was like in the 2000s. And the cop told him to put it down or yelled at him or whatever. And the guy just fired the shotgun. And the cop was like, it had the crook of his door open. And so it hit the driver's side window. It didn't hit him, but it shattered. And he said, according to him, he popped up. And the only reason we know about this is because there was a camera from the bank aimed at the cop. He said, I popped up and fired 4 shots and got back down. And then when I came back up, the guy was dead. And it was like, you look at the crime scene reports, there's 2 Glock magazines on the ground and 1 in the gun. And the reason it stopped firing was its stovepipe that jammed on him. And so he just put the Glock in his holster like that and went and investigated the guy. But he said, yeah, I fired like 4 times and hit him. It's like, oh, you fired like 28 times. And you did hit him every time. Congratulations. Yeah, you got him. But he would have swore up and down. It was like, and I fired 4 or 5 times. And it's like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Because the camera shows it. He's just like in the crook of that window. Check, 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 check. And then you just see the magazine drop, and he's immediately like this. And then like the I think it was the second or third one he put in, you see the gun, like you see the bullet just sticking out sideways. And he kind of looks up, puts it in his holster, and then goes and investigates the guy, because he's obviously at this point he's like, I think I got him, because the guy was like backed into, like, here was the door coming out like here, and so he was kind of in a corner, so the cop just had to fire into that corner, so it wasn't like there was like a street behind him or something.
Oh, okay.
So that's why that guy didn't get in trouble for firing that many times, because he was basically firing into a building wedge. But yeah,
I remember there's that report that came out, and there's a bunch of weird articles written on it, because they seem to miss a lot of clear details. Essentially, some like YouTube prankster was pranking some like delivery driver, and the driver shot him, and then so it was like, ha ha, they let him off free for shooting a YouTuber for being like, so everybody like, yeah, this guy's being an idiot, and like and he was found not guilty of shooting the guy. And they're like, haha. It was like, you missed the part where he's like found guilty of firing in a public place, and he's getting 2 years of jail time.
Yeah. firing a gun in a mall. That's stupid, but okay.
um,
I mean, I don't know
say,
what's going on in a place. Like if someone approaches me in a mall and they're acting weird and I feel threatened, I'm just gonna start yelling like, "Hey, Hal, look at this weirdo!" You know, I'm not gonna like. I know what to do. Boom, 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 boom. It's like, what could go wrong? Just, ugh. But I guess in the heat of the moment, some people don't think clearly.
yeah. Um, and
Especially
it's a mall,
crazy.
so clearly he didn't unload that firearm in a crowded area.
Yeah, no.
I think the lawyer should get back on that one. Judge, there's no way that's considered a public place.
Yeah, have to.
Nobody's there.
Look at the lease agreements. I pulled up a copy of who's leasing. The hot topic is 450 feet away around the corner. There's no way the bird at the fountain might have got hit.
So yeah, they run up the stairwell. They get outside on the roof. The one guy runs and makes it across, and the guy that's doing the first person, he runs and misses the jump. He's like hanging on the ledge. The guy grabs his arm, and then he just falls to his death. Then he smashed.
Well, the guy's trying to pull him up, but then he gets to get in a shootout with the police.
Yeah.
So he lets his friend like, okay, good luck.
Then we smash cut to Lenny Nero, but Ray Fiennes here. He's taken off his VR gear that isn't goggles. Very smart.
Yes, nice.
Because like I said, talking about Virtuosity and Johnny Mnemonic, they both had like goggle stuff, which always looks stupid. Here they smartly did the thing of like, it's a device that connects to your brain because it's putting images in your brain, not just putting a screen in front of your eyes, which is very smart because the actors can still act and you can still see their facial expressions. So, and you get the idea that like, oh, these are the images going in their mind. So,
and this is how people record because it's something that's set in your hairline, not over your face.
Yeah.
I was when I first saw this in this movie, I thought, oh, this is going to be cool because we finally have something that like, yeah, you could store all that information on a mini disc because I'm assuming your brain is the actual processor here. All you need to do is insert the images. Like it's not totally unrealistic technology where it's like, no, your brain's doing most of the work. It knows how to put the images together. This is just, I was hoping it would be explained like that. It wasn't.
Yeah.
But because what you think is going to be the MacGuffin of the whole movie, it's like, it's just there. It's kind of background technology after a while.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, well, at some point when there's later on, there's talking of like a cabal of rich guys that don't want the world to change, and so like this is the world sucks by effect, and then it ends up not necessarily being the case.
No.
But I was like working on an idea. It's like, oh yeah, it's just like the old money people that have no new innovations, and then the one new innovation that comes out like throws everything for a loop, and then I was going to compare that to like basically phones kind of changing everything, and then that pisses off cops because now they're under surveillance unintentionally.
Yeah.
And they really don't like that.
No. The thin blue line, how the sausage is made. Eat it, but you don't want to see how it's made. All these arguments that they have. I mean, we could go deep bullshit on the squid, which is something that I love. It's like what this really represented in the movie is like, oh, this has become the media.
Yeah.
Because remember, there was no internet mentioned in this movie because the internet wasn't widely a thing yet by the time this movie came out. So this is
it was around and it was worldwide, but not everybody was using it, nor did they know how to use it.
Yeah, it wasn't like everyone was doing it or everyone had a face tube.
Because at that time, the internet was just text and pictures.
Yeah, internet porn back then was a test of patience. Like you're just waiting for line by line emulation. It's like, I think I can see a nipple. Oh no, it's not a nipple. It's a bathing suit. Damn it. Another picture. Give me the other picture.
The best I can do for you is left parentheses period, right parentheses, left parentheses period, right parentheses.
But this, you could say like in the movie, in the script, like, oh, the squid represents like the media and our culture and its decay, and it's just there. all it does is profit off of it and make everyone's life into some kind of cheap digital experience or thrill,
Yeah.
and that's why society is falling apart. None of those things are mentioned in the movie like that, but it's like, oh, you could really go crazy and like
Yeah. Well, I mean,
write a lot into it.
considering the origins of this is the Rodney King
Yeah.
video. So yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because the
just,
Rodney King thing was not ultimately, in my mind, it was. I mean, there's definitely an element of like, oh, it's a human rights violation, and we've recorded it, and this is how we're going to react to it. But it was also like a lurid, like, oh, I can't believe I'm seeing this. You know, it's like this is amazing, and everyone watched it and got a different message from it about what they thought was okay or what should or shouldn't be going on.
and I think that movie like Colors, I think that came out in '89, where it's like here's bad cops beating up black people, and white America's like that's not happening, and then this video comes out, it's like that's just a bad day for the cops. I don't think that's happening all the time.
This is not something that's well. I remember all the music. Like last week we had Ice T and or no Ice or yeah Ice
Yeah,
T.
I see. He
I
did
remember Cop Killer.
Cop Killer. Yeah.
Yeah, we used to play that song in our cars all the time in Hayseed, Indiana. It's like, yeah, we're part of the counterculture. I think that song's still banned. Like, I still don't think you can listen to that. And it's funny because Ice-T is now a cop on TV.
Yeah. He was
And
also like
he's a pitchman for car insurance.
yeah, I mean he's a businessman, so
Yeah.
I think he was in like the first Airborne too, so
Oh, okay.
or 101st Airborne. You know, the Black Hawk Down guys.
Oh, okay.
I think actually no, I think I think that was a different. That was like the 60th SOAR and that or what. Anyway. So yeah. Lenny here, Ray finds he's pissed because he basically calls it a snuff film, or I think they call them blackjacks. That's their terminology for it when somebody dies in the video.
By the way, best name for a character ever, Lenny Nero. Like, nobody has a name like that.
Well, I mean, yeah, it fits him perfectly because it's like Lenny's like a car salesman, and that's what he's doing. And then of course, Nero watches Rome burn. So,
and his fiddle is a squid.
It's a squiddle.
Yes.
So yeah, he doesn't like when people die in the videos because what this thing does is like it doesn't just record a video of what happens here. You get their emotions and things too,
which I feel what they feel, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
because that's like the one later on when like the one guy's raping the one girl, he puts it on her so she can feel his pleasure and her fear at the same time.
See, again, this is where we're getting. This is like altered carbon type levels of weirdness.
Oh yeah, this is super fucked up, and I don't really think they don't necessarily get it across. Of like, remember, they aren't just watching this like you're watching the movie. They are experiencing the emotions that go along with the image, like they're smelling and all that shit. That all comes with it. Like
and
it's
all the
not
pain and all the pleasure and
yeah, I mean, like, that would if this existed, that would be something only James Cameron could do, because then you'd have to account for like smell and stuff like that in your movie. This doesn't smell right. Gotta redo this scene. I'm sure at that point it would be acceptable to just be a pornographer. It's like, well, that's what this was made for. This is the pinnacle of this technology.
This is the only thing that really
yeah, you're not watching this in a theater with somebody. You're experiencing yourself. So it's like, yeah, they don't make they don't make like grand epics of these. It's only pornography.
Yeah, there's one guy who's like, oh, I want to do War and Peace. I want to be the main character in a visualization of War and Peace that feels real. It's like, well, yeah, you're the only guy. Everyone else wants to be in the gangbang. Like, sorry. And we're going to spend $1 billion to make that so we get all the smells right. And James Cameron's writing the script. But,
and it's the 90s, so you can get your gangbang without all the AIDS.
Yeah.
So yeah, the guy who's like giving him the vid here is Tick by Richard Edson, who I just remember as he's the guy in Ferris Bueller's Day Off that like him and his buddy steal the Ferrari and run out the miles on it when they're the car valets.
Yeah.
But he's also in a bunch of stuff. He's in one of the Miami Vice episodes we watched. Yeah, he's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, he always talks weird too. He has a weird way of talking.
Yeah, he kind of like, almost like kind of like probably
Like
had like a hair lip or
yeah,
something like
or
that.
something. Yeah,
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 yeah, kind of
something.
like that too. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, always yeah, definitely a character actor. It's like you hire this guy to be this guy. That's
Yeah.
what he's there for. And here he's supposed to be like a seedy guy who's selling videos or I forget. I just call them vids. I think that's what they call them, but I think there's other like 400 different terminologies for them. So
Yeah, this
uh,
guy's basically a purveyor and editor. He can edit these videos in a certain way,
yeah, oh, yeah, yeah,
and then like Lenny's the salesman,
yeah,
and Lenny we find out he used to be a cop, because all this stuff's completely illegal as you would expect.
yeah. And yeah, it's never like deeply explained. They do give you a throw off line as to why, um, but you don't see anybody. You never see anybody get arrested for this. So
No,
it's you see threats of it, but nobody does.
yeah, it's one of those weird things because it is just a technology. It's not a drug, and it's also I think it's implied it might only be legal in the United States. Like the guy, because there's a Japanese guy later who's like, "Oh, I have a much better version of that."
Yeah,
You know, and it's like,
yeah.
oh, he just brought it into the countries. It's like, okay, so we don't know.
And I wrote down
But
the
if you,
dial.
but if you try to think about the reality of something like this, like if this was real, like this obviously wasn't real, not yet. The closest we've come to that is like our phones, but that's just they're not in accessing our cerebral cortex.
No,
I
no.
mean, they are, but they're not like this would be. Is
I
yeah,
mean,
the
you have
nightmare.
VR goggles, but it's still just a screen in front of your face that you can see in
Yeah, it's not
3D.
interfacing with your nervous
No, no.
system. That's the thing is because this is like I said earlier, this is the electric state. Like this is where, like, oh, this is where the Stallhog art book, like, oh, that's exactly what the world would become. Is everyone just living in just a Mobius strip of gangbangs? It's like, or killing or everything. It would never be used for good if it really existed here or in any real world. I can imagine where this would show up. The only nice thing about something like this is like, could you learn skills very quickly with this?
Yeah.
Like, could you learn to play the violin very rapidly with something where someone you took over your nervous system or you interacted with your nervous system and it's like, oh, this is how you play the guitar, or this is how you do woodworking. It's like that. That's like the stuff I would think would be cool about this. But most people are just most people's brains are just garbage anyway, and they're going straight to the orgy. So. And
um,
once that wears off, which it does, trust me, all those pleasure centers will burn out in your brain if you just use them too much. Then it would get into like the dark, like the snuffs type
yeah.
stuff and all that. And it's like, oh, this would be a nightmare technology if it existed.
Yeah, that's where he says the line like, "I don't deal in blackjack clips." So that's what they call snuff films.
Yeah, blackjacks, okay.
Um,
Which in modern parlance would be like a whole different thing.
well, there's a bunch of stuff with jacking, like did you get jacked in and stuff like that. They don't say jacked off, but that's also what they're writing the line for. That's what they're implying whenever jacked is getting brought up. It's kind of supposed to be like, oh, we're connecting neurons and electronics, and also sex.
Oh yeah, sex is a huge gross undertone in this whole movie because all the sex in this movie is bad and it leads to bad things, and it's always bad people doing it in the worst way possible. This was rated R, right? This had to
Oh
be
yes,
rated.
yes, yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say that some of the stuff in this movie was like, ugh.
But I don't know. There's kind of a fun thing where it allows you to be perverted because there is like, oh, there's a lot of busty ladies in here, kind of seemingly just thrust in front of the camera for clearly the male gaze. Then you have to remember a woman directed this movie, so it's okay.
Yeah. Well, hey, whatever the modern weirdos say about men and women and the relationship between them, that's secret. Everyone, women like sex too. Shh, don't say anything. Women like sex. It's not that strange a concept. I know some people want to make it weird,
No,
so
but no, I mean the whole problem is like it's always like a power thing where it's like, okay, well, men made these movies and now we're seeing some lady naked, and it's clear not because she wanted to, it's because they made her do it. And so when a woman directs a movie, it's like, well, clearly they wanted to do it. So
yeah, Juliette Lewis did not seem unhappy to be naked. I mean, Juliette Lewis never seemed unhappy to be naked. It's kind of Juliette Lewis's thing.
So yeah, him and Tick and Lenny argue about like buying this clip because he says he's gonna have to edit off the end of it, and like that's gonna make it have less value. So he buys it for like $5,000, but and presumably that's a steal. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell this clip for a lot of money.
Yeah.
Then we cut to the streets are like wild with chaos, but like I don't know, things are still happening on. It's just like, oh, the car's afire of the street, but it's parked to the side, so it's okay.
Yeah, and you can drive around. There was a lot of driving through smoke that went on.
Yeah.
A lot of smoke, and you're just driving through it. And it's like they don't do that much anymore, unless they're doing like the New York at night scenes where the subway or
Yeah,
the
but they got
sewers.
yeah, but they have that. The New York's all powered by that's all heated by steam. So like there is, they do literally have steam vents that vent through the city. So that's acceptable. I don't know what steam is going on in L.A. I don't think the city is heated widely by steam.
Yeah, as I remember my history, no expert here, but I think Los Angeles was settled much later than New York. But I could be wrong.
And I feel like, I don't know, that's the weird thing about L.A. is that like, well, no, it's California. I imagine L.A. probably has a lot of air conditioning, but in general, well, actually, in general, there's a lot of podcasts I listen to, and they talk about how like basically nobody has air conditioning there. Whereas like we're from the Midwest and like, well, we have air conditioning and we don't really need it, but we like it.
We need it like 1 month a year is when like our air conditioning's really, yeah. Because I've worked in an industry almost my entire 30+ years of working, never had air conditioning at work. I mean, never. That's why we had the tour of my plant. I don't know if I talked about this in August. My wife and son, it was a public tour. You could come through. It's like, yeah, you want to see where I work? And I took them through, and it was in August, and it was like 88. It was 90, but it's really humid. And it's like, oh, how can you stand this? And it's like, oh, I wasn't even sweating. It's like, this is normal to me. It's like, now I said, when it gets much to like the 95, 98, yeah, then I'm miserable. But like 90 and humid, it's like, as long as there's air moving around, I'm fine. But they were like literally like ready to die. It's like, oh yeah, this seems normal. And now, like in October, I'm wearing like a sock cap and a hoodie like all day at work now, and it's only in the 50s. It's like I'm losing my resistance to cold that I used to have. It's like there was a time like 5 years ago I wouldn't start putting the clothes on until like December, January. Now it's like October, and I'm like, But also I'm driving a piece of equipment around. I'm not like working on the line, so maybe that's different.
But I guess the we have seasons, and in California the weather's so reliable year round. It's like you don't need it. So
yeah,
if you can get by just opening some windows and creating a draft, like why do you need air conditioning? It's so expensive to live there anyways.
Yeah, it's expensive. I just spent as much as I've spent a fortune putting a new system in my house. So, but the heat is wonderful, though. I will say, it's like I like the heat.
Oh, the last F1 race had a crazy heat thing to it, because it was all kinds of crazy. A rookie won a race. It wasn't the full race. It was like their sprint race, so it's not necessarily considered like a race win, but he did win it. So, and yeah. rookies almost universally suck in F1. Like you don't expect them to do anything. You're expected to not crash your car. That's what you expect out of a rookie in F1.
Yeah.
Like only Lewis Hamilton is like, I'm going to come into the sport and I'm going to come in 1 point away from winning the championship. Like nobody does that.
Yeah, there's a reason everyone knows his name. He's the one guy that did it.
Yeah. But so yeah, they're in Qatar. And clearly there's it seems like clearly they just got paid a bunch of money to be there, and nobody wanted to be there, and they just like overlooked a bunch of safety rules, and so like it was a track built for Moto GP, for moto racing, for the you know the like the really fast motorcycle racing, Moto GP. That's what the track's built for.
Okay.
And so like the curbs on it are kind of weird and kind of like this kind of like shark tooth stuff on it, and so it really eats up the tires. And the Pirelli was scared that all their tires were going to start exploding in a longer race. And so they like painted the lines in further so they weren't near that curbs. And
So that was that. Okay, they just changed the margins of the track.
yeah, so they want to get
Okay.
near the shark tooth stuff. And the other thing is like they forced the teams to have to pit 3 times. Like no, they couldn't go on any tire longer than 16 laps. So they had
Oh, wow. All right.
so because they weren't going to, a lot of times like at a race they'd only pit 1 time. Like a
Yeah.
lot of these cars, and these drivers are so good, they could probably get through a race without pitting at all. I mean, the tires might explode eventually, but like one guy almost did that a couple of years ago. He went like the whole race without doing a pit stop, and he pit on exactly the last lap, and he ended up in 10th place and got 1 point. So it was like, yes, this is the
Ugh.
perfect this is the perfect strategy. And I remember Esteban Ocon. They're in it was in a wet race. Like it started as a wet race, and technically you don't have to pit in a wet race, and so he didn't. And there was like just like this softball sized blister on the tire at the end of the race.
God. You imagine being in a car going that fast. Like, is that thing gonna go?
um, and then so because they couldn't like do the strategy of like making the tire last longer, and they were gonna have to get rid of them anyways. So that meant every lap they were basically going like like qualifying speed. Because a lot of times the difference between like the pole lap and a average lap on race day is like 10 seconds. At least that was what Japan. That was the difference between the pole lap and an average lap in the race. It's like a
Okay.
10-second difference. It's like race pace and 1 lap pace are very different things.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a universe of difference.
And here it was like the difference between the pole lap and the race lap was like less than a second. So they were just doing qualifying laps the entire fucking race.
Sweet.
Which meant, and it was a night race in the Middle East, and it was really hot, but because they were just running that engine at top speed, it roasted those fucking drivers.
Oh, yeah, bad. Like
um,
sitting next to a furnace.
I think Fernando Alonso like got a burn on his body. I don't know. He was talking about it in the cockpit. Nobody showed the evidence of that. Logan Sargent, the one American, was like the one guy that quit the race because his vision was blurry, and he's like, "I gotta stop."
Yeah, my brain's about to shut off. Yeah.
Esteban Ocon like threw up twice in his in his
Ugh,
car, and they're locked in. It's not like he can get rid of that. That was just in the helmet the whole race.
just sloshing around.
um, um, yeah, and then like a couple people like they couldn't get out of their cars. Like the only one that like seemed to like actually get through it was like Lando Norris. like it was also weird because like we're in the race, he's chasing out his teammate. Like Verstappen was gone, they weren't getting him, but they're coming in second and third, and he was coming up on his teammate, and he has like this weird like very calm call where he's like, where they're like, all right, we're gonna stay in these positions, and he's like, why are we gonna do that, huh?
Oh,
It's like we don't want you taking each other out, like trying to get a race in second place. It's like okay, and everybody else was like, I can't see.
my
Yeah,
eyes are shutting off.
well, yeah, it was like Logan Sargent was on the radio. It was like, I'm gonna gut through it. Apparently, he had the flu like the week before, and he had like gotten over the flu, so he was done with the flu, but he's still kind of a weakened state, and then getting put in a basically put in a frying pan. He wasn't held out, but um um what was I gonna make? But yeah, he said like, yeah, I gotta quit, or I gotta come in. Like, I can't do the race like this. And they're like, yeah, okay, no problem. And he's like, who's behind me? I don't have mirrors. And they're like, what do you mean? And he basically meant like, I can't see. I don't have no peripheral vision. I can't see in the mirrors. Because he was fainting. He was having a heat stroke essentially. Uh, and then later on, there's an interview with Lance Stroll where he's talking about like, oh yeah, since lap 25, I had no peripheral vision, and I was blacking out in the turns. And they're like, what? It's like, oh yeah, so we were having heat strokes, and then like compile that with being like 6G maneuvers. Like, yeah, the brain and blood isn't circulating great. Like, everything was blurring, and I couldn't see through the turning the corners. I was blacking out in the corners. uh so essentially, I don't know if it's gonna happen that way anyways, or if they didn't do the mandatory 3 pit stop. But anyways, almost everybody said like, because like only a couple races ago you have Singapore, which that's usually considered the most grueling race because it's similar conditions where it's just like, oh, it's really hot and it's a long race. But this was just artificially created, just a heat burner, and they're like, oh yeah, this is the toughest race I've ever been through.
They earned their money. Whatever they got paid to be there, they earned everything. Driving a car while hallucinating, not a good thing.
Oh yeah, Yuki Tsunoda was like lifting up his visor like in the middle of the race to try to get some air in, and then it's sandy there, so he just got his face full of sand. It's like,
God.
Yeah, and like when George Russell was pulling in the pits, he'd pull up the visor, and then there's sometimes where he's like scooping air down in, and then he did some weird thing where it looked like he was playing around like doing this with his hands, but it was just that his hands were so hot. He was like going 100, he's doing like 205 miles an hour and just like hands off the steering wheel doing this. Anyway, so this is what happens to our podcast when we don't have American Greed Factory. It just seeps into this podcast.
That's your F1 update. Now, what does F1 really mean to the larger?
When F1 goes, so does society.
Yeah. Beginning of the end.
That's why it's coming to America next week.
Watch it. Get down there. Get your $3,000 ticket.
Yeah, so Lenny's driving the Mercedes, which I guess was like a prototype Mercedes at this time to try to like kind of make try to have a future looking car. Yeah. Although it just kind of just looked like a Mercedes, so from the mid 90s. So but he's talking on a cell phone, he's listening to talk radio, so it's it's kind of predicting now. Yeah. He just didn't have a touch screen, everything had buttons.
Yeah, physical buttons.
I hear there's people talking about like the economy sucks, gas is over $3 a gallon, fifth graders are shooting each other in school. So yeah, right on the money.
Yeah, it's like you're not wrong.
Although I guess ahead of its time, because here it's just supposed to be 1999. So yeah. Some ladies.
Columbine happened in 1999.
So. Yeah. Some ladies tackle and beat up Santa, or beat up a Santa.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know if Santa's at fault or if that's just to show like the world falling apart.
Was Santa trying to pick up the hookers, or was these guys ringing the bell and they're just like, we need that money for crack?
We've got some Korean gun and shop owners watching their shop. So, clearly taking after the riots here.
The roof Koreans.
Yeah, the rooftop Koreans. Then we cut to, it's like a first person video of it's a lesbian sex vid, and they're trying to make a deal for it. And we also get the so yeah, he's like in the bathroom like watching this, but then we got they just have some busty ladies having sex.
Yeah.
That it's also probably on drugs or vids, who knows. Oh yeah. I don't know the cost of doing vids. It seems like it'd be like pretty high. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Right.
I don't know. It seemed like it'd be safer. It's not like you're like putting needles in you, but who knows?
Yeah, I mean, you're not like banging veins and stuff.
But the device you put on your head is called the squid device, which is the superconducting quantum interference device.
Yeah.
Which I don't really call it interference. I thought interface would be a better word, but whoever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's quantum interference. It's like, what's it doing? Interfering with the cells in your head at a quantum level? What is quanta? Define that for me, because I've never understood it. It doesn't matter. It sounds cool. It's like, yay, it's Tech MacGuffin.
Now, are there two different kinds of squids, or are they all the same thing? Do they both record and play, or are there different ones for recording and playing?
It's never really made clear to me, so I assume the decks have that capability going both ways.
Okay, that's why I
I
wasn't
know
sure
mini
about.
disc players could both play and record.
Yeah. Okay, I wasn't sure about that. There seemed to
My
be like.
mini disc era worst investment I ever made. How about that? I
What's
can't
that?
even. It's like my mini disc
Oh
era.
yeah, okay, yeah.
I had a fortune in mini discs. I thought that was. I was trying to get a player for one of my cars. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, I want a mini disc player, and it was like $1,000. It's like, well, how could I make that happen? It never did. But I was like, oh my god, and then it's like literally vaporized.
Yeah. MP3s destroyed everything.
Yeah, MP3s ruined everything. They ruined music. They ruined God. They killed God.
So yeah, he's taking a squid device and he's placing it on a guy, or it's like it's under a wig, so like everybody has like a weird wig on top, and so he's gonna go have sex with some hot lady, and he's like, "Wait, so you're paying me to have sex with a lady, and then you're gonna sell the video of it?" It's like, all right, yeah, that seems like a win-win for him.
Yeah.
Then we cut to there's like a some lady in a sexy dress is running from the cops. Here it's Burton Steckler, who's Vincent D'Onofrio. You see him like stop, and he describes that he's chasing a black guy, so you're like, oh, he's a liar.
Yeah, this is a crooked cop.
Which that's a quick introduction. It's like, wait, what's his deal? It's like, oh, that's his deal. You have his partner Dwayne Engelman, who's played by William Fitchner. Like so,
This is his third movie.
yeah. This, yeah, was he in the? Yeah, he's in everything. Oh yeah, he was in Black Hawk Down. Also, Tom Sizemore was in Black Hawk Down, which we did a couple of. Yeah, like Fitchner's in everything. He's like the character actor.
Oh yeah,
And here he's very young here, so yeah.
he's very young here. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Vincent D'Onofrio looks pretty svelte here. So.
Yeah, Vincent D'Onofrio is like the Terminator robot guy, because he's like chasing this woman and he's punching through the window of a moving subway car and grabbing, pulling her head out while this thing's moving, and he's just running along with her hair in his hand. Like, oh, is he gonna like hold on to her until her head gets cut off? And the wig flies off, and they realize that she's got a squid device under there. And then she starts firing into the subway car with his police gun. It's like, oh, what a lunatic.
Yeah. But yeah, when they notice, and yeah, this is where the Engelman notices, like, oh, there's a squid device under in the hairpiece. He's like, oh, we're screwed. Like, she just recorded all of that.
Yeah.
But then you find out, like, oh, there's something that happened before this, which is even worse. So it's not just her getting chased by cops and being shot at in the public. Which cops are desperate when they're doing that. But yeah. So.
Oh yeah, I actually never have seen that in real life. So, and that's good. It means I live in the right places. You don't like have to like, oh, here comes the cops chasing somebody.
Then we cut to Lenny's heading home. The distressed lady, I think this is Iris is her name, which I kind of looked up her stuff. She's like some Canadian actress who's, I don't know, I don't really recognize her stuff. She ran a show.
Taco?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She produced and directed and written like a show in Canada called The G Spot, which ran for like 3 seasons or something like that. It's like, huh. But then, like, I think it was after like 2008 she never acted anything ever again. But she did a lot of like she's in Red Shoe Diaries, so there's a lot of stuff where it's like, she's kind of doing like softcore kind of stuff here.
Oh, okay. She's from Montreal.
Okay.
Montreal, Quebec, as we say in America, or as they will correct you up here, it's Quebec. It's like, oh, sorry, I don't talk that way.
I'm
Sorry.
sorry, I don't care.
Yeah, sorry, I don't speak French Canadian.
I know this is your entire identity, but watch me as I walk away.
Yeah. Look, I know you got all the signs up there changed to like dual languages. Sometimes in Michigan, you get all three. You get it in English, you get it in. It's obviously someone's told me there's a big difference. There's a difference between French Canadian and French, and then we get it in Spanish too. Not on
Yeah.
everything, but sometimes you'll buy stuff at the store and it's got 3 different labels on it. It's like, oh, we're just getting the best of everything here.
Um. So she calls Lenny, but she calls his house, and the answering machine picks up, which is a consummate thing in '90s movies because that's a great way to have communication come across, but like people not live talking to each other, which
Yeah.
which they still do that because they have voicemail, so that's the thing that happens.
Or you have text messages appear on the screen.
Yeah. But yeah, it's hard. It's harder nowadays to write a screenplay because you always have to figure out. It's like, all right, we got to get a cell phone out of their hands because this whole thing will be done if just anybody has the slightest bit of communication. um, I always like it in this Expanse because there's no live communication in the Expanse, so you always just have to like send a video, and there's always consideration of like, how am I going to produce this video so I can I can get the maximum effect with the minimal effort. Like, I have to be concise, but I have to look good, whatever.
Yeah.
Or I have to look distressed.
This is going across the stars. No subspace communication in the Expanse universe.
No.
There's no HoloNet like in Star Wars, and what is it in Star Trek? It's all subspace. It's like,
Yeah,
get us on subspace.
yeah, subspace communication. So basically, it's like you're sending your communication to light speed,
or Ender's Game, where it's clone crystals.
Yeah, well, that's the same
Quantum
thing.
entanglement.
Yeah, same thing in the gap cycle.
Oh, okay.
It was quantum entanglement, so you affect one atom here, and it does the same thing to the other atom, despite despite infinite distance.
Yep. Melodic parallax instantaneous communication, which I don't know if it's real or not, but it sounds cool.
Well,
Get him on the philo.
Yeah, that's a character's name in this, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I like because the quantum entanglement kind of explains like, oh, they're like twin atoms. You do one and the same things does the other, and despite the distance between them. And then in the Expanse, they do like an extra evil where it's like if it's like you're torturing one atom to make the other one be tortured. It's like, that's a weird evil twist on it. It's like, it's just an atom, but now let's make it evil. like we're beating it up to get communication out of it.
Oh, the whole substrate that the Expanse is built on, the world of technology they discover, is basically like these are the same people who watched Event Horizon, like me, and it's like, what if the Satan world had a technology that we could understand somewhat? It's like, yeah, it'd all be based on pain and torture. It's like, okay, yeah, that's the subworld. That's the skeleton the Expanse is built on. I don't know if that's true or not, but it always seemed like, ooh, this is how you go through like
Expanse or the gap cycle?
No, the Expanse.
Oh, okay.
No, the gap cycle was its own weird thing, but no, the Expanse was always like I think it's in my mind. The alien technology was like, oh, the guys who came up with this must have watched Event Horizon a lot,
Yeah.
and they liked it for the same reasons I did, and they hated it for the same reasons everyone did. But they're like, oh, what if we did have another race that had technology, but it was all based on evil? And it was like, how would our characters struggle with that? I don't know if that's true or not. It's just a theory I had about the Expanse. Because like all that alien technology is just like satanically bad. Like it's like no one would design shit like that. I mean, I guess it's like the theory is it's the only way to solve problems. Is like, but is it? Because it seems like the darkest way to solve your problem.
Yeah, or it's like created from a being that doesn't have emotions, or maybe doesn't have like sensitivity or a nervous system.
Well, but if you read the books, though, the technology was a form of torture. It was a form of war waged against two great species. And it's like, oh, this definitely. I unlocked it all. Ha ha. Or I didn't. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I guess ultimately, yeah, the whole thing was like, oh yeah, if you want to power moving to the stars, you got to steal energy from another dimension.
Yep. You have to torture weird things to make it. Oh, I mean, Star Trek Discovery, the whole first season was like, yeah, we got to torture this weird creature to use the spore drive. It's like, oh, okay, that sounds that's pretty Klingon of you to do it that way.
But because we're the liberals, we have to hide it from everybody.
We don't like that we're doing it, but we still do
Or the
it. Okay.
Klingons, they would have put that thing on the bridge. Engage, and it's just somebody beating it with a stick till it
Yeah,
teleports.
they would sing a song while they did it. No, please, oh, no. It's like this is honor right here. It's like, oh yeah, so it's really goes back to my other theory. It's like nothing does matter as long as you don't get caught or can justify it, right? Yes, it's the secret of all cultures. It's the dark heart of all men that they think of right before they fall asleep. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah, go ahead and light that thing up. Let's see what happens. We're all here.
So now alien abductions make sense.
Absolutely, they do. Yeah,
They see what we do to things. It's like, oh yeah, let's just do it to them.
yeah.
um,
Yeah, basically physics and all the laws of the universe are just some kind of elaborate S&M thing. It's just it's quantum S&M. We better put a patent on that before somebody else takes it from us.
activate the sex drive, and it's just a
Yeah.
guy just get a guy in a gimp suit out and put him in like one of those you know, what they call those Da Vinci whatever thing.
Okay, we got to break. We got to go through light speed. What are we gonna do? It's like, this guy's gonna put on a bondage outfit, and we're gonna hook jumper cables up to his testicles. It's like, all right, yeah, cool. But how does that get us through space and time? Trust me, it works.
God.
Yeah, God.
Like God's allowing this? Like, no, that's why this happened.
Yeah,
It's an affront to God.
God's skeleton will pilot us.
So yeah, he doesn't get to the phone in time, and so yeah, I don't think he missed it. Yeah, actually, I don't even think he listens to the message, but
No.
it does play.
Yeah.
He goes to bed, he grabs a shoebox of vids, and a couple say Faith on them, which that's a fun thing you used to do. You used to like make mixtapes, and you'd put you have all the stickers to put on there, and you could put little pictures on them. Yeah, you do the same thing with VHS tapes. It's a fun thing you used to do. Now it's all on a desktop. And you don't even do that anymore.
You just put titles like Wedding Night to see which weirdos can watch. It's like a football game from 12 years ago. It's like, I gotcha.
I remember I was messing around like, hey, like I noticed like with a VHS, and it's like, oh, this tab here, like on an official VHS, like, oh, here's a VHS, like there's this tab here, and it's not on this VHS thing, so that allows it to record. And so like I took the tab off on the Die Hard 2 tape, and then I accidentally put like some like a Packers game got recorded onto the Die Hard 2 to VHS. Like, oh, whoops, I didn't know that would happen. It's like, okay. Well, I mean, I was guessing that would happen. I was just seeing if it would allow it.
Yeah, it did. Secrets of the universe reveal themselves. Your tab removal.
And I think I had to put like tape over it so it would act as a tab.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh yeah, so yeah, it puts on the squid projector, and so he's experienced hanging out with Faith, played by Juliette Lewis. They're like rollerblading. She's in like this really steep cut bikini bottom,
Yeah.
like it's swimwear, but it looks like lingerie, and a half sweater. Yeah, that's what she's wearing here. So.
Yeah, she definitely got like waxed. It was like barely covered in it.
And then she gets undressed back at the house, and they start having sex, but then like the vid cuts out. And then we cut to which I guess that's how he gets to sleep. And so it says 2 p.m. and the 11 o'clock news is playing, which I'm guessing that's just a repeat, or maybe they have on-demand video here. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know.
And And so
This
they say,
world, let's just say that the world of the future, 4 years in the future, um, doesn't or fire, yeah, 4 years in the future. It
from
really,
when this movie came out.
yeah, from this movie came out, doesn't look like super futuristic.
No, it's
They do
just
some things like they tried to introduce some stuff in this visually and with the soundtrack. We could talk about the soundtrack a little bit because I bought the soundtrack for this a long time ago and I listened to it a lot, mainly because I like the Deep Forest Peter Gabriel. It was the song that played at the credits at the end.
oh.
You can't find it anywhere. So many rights. I mean, you look up the rights on this soundtrack. It's like it's a contract. But this kind of had the look of a music video in some ways, not
Yeah,
exclusively, but this was one of the first movies I remember where they were trying to make that like techno industrial stuff become like more mainstream,
yeah.
which like that never really caught on in America as I remember as a big thing. Now it did in Europe, like every other show had
I,
some version of that.
I don't know. That's what's happening at the end there with that huge crowd. That's a real crowd for a techno concert.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, I think they were trying to make that happen. That never, I don't recall. I don't see that as taking off here like it did in Europe.
no, I don't know. But also, I'm not in clubs, so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I follow. I like industrial techno like type music when I
Yeah.
was younger. Now I'm just listening to, I'm back to like Neil Young and being sad. But there's sometimes I liked a lot of that stuff. And this was the first movie where they tried to make it seem like mainstream almost. Like
Yeah,
there's
because
so
they're
much of
guessing
it in
that
this
like,
movie.
yeah, they're guessing like, oh, this will be mainstream music in the future,
Mm-hmm.
rather than what did happen in 1999, which is like boy bands and rap rock.
Yeah.
So the end of civilization. But it's
Yeah.
fine. Whatever, it's fine.
Basically, I always tell my son, it's like, I'm so sorry I lived through an epoch of great music. You did not. But that's why Grayson listens to like music from the 70s. It's like,
Yeah. Like I always say, there's great music now. It's just not promoted. You could
yeah,
accidentally listen to great in the '90s. You could accidentally be exposed to great music anywhere, like even at the grocery store. And now you're not.
yeah. Now you have to get on your phone and like look it up.
You have to research your good music. Although I was trying to figure out, like, I was thinking about like if recording has been democratized, like with the technology we have currently available to us, we could probably produce something that as great as they made in the '70s with the stuff we have now. But like, why isn't that happening? It's like, well, I'm guessing like in the '70s, people had to be like really good with their instruments because the only
Yeah,
way
you
to
had to
make
be able to
money
play musical instruments for one
live.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You had to do it live because that's where you made your money, and recording was super expensive. So that was the thing you did least. Like you were playing live all the time, so you had to be really good at your instruments. Where now, if you just record in your studio and just like have infinite time to make it, it's like you're probably not going to be as good at your instrument.
No,
And you don't even have to know how to play an instrument. So
playing musical instruments is hard.
yeah,
It's something I've always wanted to do and tried to do several times. It's like I suck.
yeah,
I can't tell the difference between the. I also like to fire guns off a lot and do crazy stuff. And I spent most of my life like doing, basically either heavy labor or working on machinery or something. And it was always like there were no earplugs being worn then. And it's like, oh yeah, that you got to readjust that. The E sharp is way off. And I'm like, huh? What are you talking about? Sounds the same to me. So yeah, I can
and
never
also
had
the
talents for music. So
Also, the power of the '60s and '70s had to be just like you had to find something to do. It wasn't going to find you. Which nowadays it's like, no, it's going to find you. There's something to waste all your time.
your hobby is coming at you whether you know it or not. Your bank account is about to fall to zero because you're going to get into some obscure stuff. It's like if you want to go to my Facebook, I have things up about the Cernix, which is an instrument from the Bronze Age that the Celts played. It's like, yeah, this is what I'm like spending hours learning about that. But that's based on a book I'm reading too. So, because it's like I'm doing the classic. Ah, it's fall. It's time for me to find something to read. What are we going to read? A 1,500-page story about the history of the Celtic culture. It's like, yeah, why not? Um,
Um, so yeah, the 11 o'clock news going over the violence is like a prelude to New Year's Eve, so that's why everyone's going crazy because everyone's hopped up that like, oh, this is gonna be the end of the world.
yeah. Well, no mention of Y2K. Interesting.
No. There's a rapper who's been killed. The cops are saying it was gang murder, and I wrote, but probably not.
Yep.
um,
This was before Biggie and Tupac, or Tupac and Biggie were
Biggie
killed.
Smalls, yeah.
Yeah,
Was it before? Okay, I wasn't sure. I didn't look that up. I
yeah,
know
it was before that.
one guy's. There's just been now a guy's been arrested for the Tupac murder.
Yeah, basically because he couldn't keep quiet about it. He wanted everyone to know, hey, I killed him. It's like, shh, be cool. There's no statute of limitations on that. Don't talk about it.
It's nighttime. It's smoky, so like, this is where the car's driving through smoke again.
Yeah,
And this time it's not because a car's on fire. It's just because the air is smoky and lit with stuff. They go to like a Chinese restaurant or a club or both, whatever. Lenny meets Keith at the club. He seems kind of suspicious, and like Lenny's like, "Oh, this guy's a cop." Here's he talking about like the terminology is like, "Have you ever been jacked in, wire tripped?" So that's like their term for, sort of like their drug term for doing vids or whatever.
yeah,
Here's where they talk about like kind of the history about like the squid was technology developed by the feds to replace wiretapping.
yeah.
And then it ended up on the black market as like a weird entertainment drug. So that's the only explanation for this whole technological advice or device. So, which that's kind of neat. So,
Yeah, and then understand from at this point in the movie on, it basically does not. There's no further development of about what this is.
no, they just use it now. It's a plot device from now on.
Yeah,
So, Lenny sells Keith on the experience of it because he's kind of like, because he knows it's like, oh, this is a bad thing, but it's like, can it be that bad? So he gives
yeah, this is some really chunky dialogue that only a great actor could make work. You know? I sell dreams.
yeah, it's
I'm
like
pieces of people's lives. Yeah, that could really go wrong with the wrong actor trying to say that.
well, he's like selling experience. Like, do you want sex with a lady, two ladies? Like, do you want sex with a guy? Do you want to be a lady? I didn't have sex. And all this seems appealing to Keith, and so he gives Keith a taste, and so they go into a back room or whatever, like kind of alone. He has like these effeminate movements to him, and it's like, what's going on? He realized like, oh, he was like some young girl taking a shower. It's like, okay, but he really liked that, so he's like, I want more. Um, then we cut to that Iris. She's running around in a blonde wig, and she stuffs a note and a vid into Lenny's car in the through the sunroof. Um, then we cut back to Lenny's like trying to sell Keith like the vid or whatever, and then Max shows this Tom Sizemore shows up and he like holds up Lenny as a joke. He's like, selling vids, and then it's like, then you like basically Lenny loses a client. This is where I find out like Lenny used to be a cop, but he got thrown out of the force for reasons.
No, he got shot.
No, I thought Max got shot.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, yeah, Max. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, yeah. No, Lenny, we don't know why he got thrown off the force.
It seems I don't know. It seemed to be like a politic thing because he blames that on that one guy later on.
Yeah.
Strickland.
Yeah. Commissioner Strickland. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. If you have a guy named Steckler, don't put Strickland as another character name in there.
Yeah, it's too many lots of K's.
Yeah, Max was a cop, but he got shot. Now he says he's living on a pension and presumably doing other business. Which here he's just kind of like a lowly private eye detective. Which it seems that like that's not going well either. So, then Iris comes into the bar and finds Lenny, and she's saying that her and Faith are in trouble, and the cops. And then you hear like the cops kind of like show up, you hear the whoop whoop in the background, and then she just runs away. And he's like, "Oh, what's that?" And then Lenny's car gets repossessed. He leaves the repo man like a Rolex to try to get him to like so he can like hold him off so he can get a bribe money together. But then the guy just takes off anyways, and then you see like Lenny has another Rolex, and it's like, oh, these are just knockoff Rolexes.
He has a
It's a
suitcase full of them.
yeah, it's a funny little gag. But it's also when you realize like, oh, his like lucrative life is like it's all smoke and
It's a
mirrors.
facade. He's
Yeah.
not doing that good.
It's like, it's like, why is he doing it?
It's a less glamorous drug dealer's life. You know?
Yeah. And then Mason shows up. This is Angela Bassett, and so she shows up to like fix things for Lenny. Which her character's really, like it's like, yeah, it's like, oh, it's like, oh, is she like his like, is she like his boss somehow? But she's like this bodyguard slash limo driver.
Yeah.
And it's like, and like you see her backstory is like her husband went to what? Did her husband like get caught with like drugs or something?
It was like drugs, but real drugs.
Okay.
Like crack or something, those kind of drugs.
And then like you see her, she's like in a waitress uniform. So, and like what's implied like early on is like she was like former military or something like that. Like no, she went from a waitress and then like I don't know, hit the hit the martial arts and the driver academy and then came up with a business.
Yeah. Yeah, she's driving a Chrysler New Yorker limousine with a weird grid grill on it.
And then they all stop, and there's like a broadcast on the TV of the rapper Jericho One, and who was shot.
Jericho with a K.
Yeah. And so that's the rapper who shot dead, and he's talking about like America falling apart, and like again, this is a weird like, yeah, if this happened before the Tupac thing, because Tupac, like his mom was in like the Black Panthers, and he does have like kind of like when he would seriously talk about stuff, there's like, yeah, the world's falling apart and this is why, and it's like stuff you can't necessarily like argue against. It's like, oh yeah, like I don't want to hear bad things in America, but everything he's saying is true. So.
Yeah.
And Philo Gant, played by Michael Wincott, who's in lots of things. He's like the evil guy in The Crow, and then most recently he was the cinematographer in Nope.
Yep. My favorite Michael Wincott performance is when he's the captain in Alien Resurrection.
Oh yeah.
And I use his line because people have asked me this before. He's talking to the colonel. I forget the actor's name. But he's like, "So do you drink?" And he's like, "As much as possible." He's got that crazy voice.
Yeah.
It's like, "Do you drink?" It's like, "As much as possible." Yeah. So whenever people ask me that, I always use that line. Like, "Do you drink?" Like, as much as possible. But I can't do it like in the Michael Wincott.
Yeah, no, he's born with gravel in his throat.
Yeah.
Like
And
Canadian
great performance in Nope too. Is like,
oh yeah.
I'm the cinematographer that captures the animals, and it's like, I know this thing's gonna kill me, but it's gonna be so cool. Like, okay.
Yeah, Nope. He's like older there, and for a minute when he shows up, I thought it was like, is that Mike Judge? I was like, no, but he kind of does look like Mike Judge now. Like if Mike Judge had an older brother with a cooler voice.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was also in a Terrence Malick film in the last 5 or 8 years or something too. It was weird to see him show up. If you like Terrence Malick films, we'll never watch one for this podcast because it's dense and weird. But
I mean, all those movies are like you gotta bring something to it because they're
yeah. Bring your notebook because you're gonna be taking notes.
Well, no, you're also gonna be writing. What does this mean? Because it's a lot of just stuff presented without context.
Yeah, a lot of those movies I watch when I'm like weathering a World War II tank. So somehow they're always like, "Oh, there's a World War II analogy in this." Like, yeah, the last days of the Reich and Terrence Malick. How do they connect? Why does the rust patina on this Panzer tank need to look this way?
But Gant is like it's like he's the suspicious agent of Jericho because he's suddenly dead, and like why is this all stuff coming together now? It's like, oh, and he left Faith left Lenny for this guy, so there's all
Yeah.
kind of there's a rivalry built in there. Um,
And as we learn, Lenny can't really fight or protect himself in any way. That's Angela Bassett's job,
yeah,
even though he used to be a vice
yeah,
cop in
yeah.
LA.
He used to be a
It's like,
cop.
okay.
Yeah.
Does the
True.
device make your body not work so
Yeah.
you can't like dodge a punch?
I
I don't
mean,
know.
he is a vid junkie, so
Well, but yeah, but see here, but too, there's also a fight that happens later in the movie where he's actually like kind of effective.
yeah.
So it proves he can do it. But we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Uh, Lenny gets a ride from Mace. Lenny wants to go to a club, but Mace, and yeah, is Mace like she's like a professional driver slash bodyguard. Then Lenny crosses path. I wrote with the politician that got him fired, but here it's Commissioner Strickland. So like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, kind of looking like an OCP guy here, so you immediately think, oh, he's a bad guy, isn't he? Then I guess he's not later on, but whatever.
It was
Uh,
Dick Jones. He was Dick Jones all along.
um, Lenny goes inside and grabs Mr. Famitsu, who's a client for Mace, and he tries to make a hard sell for Mr. Famitsu, which is like this where you're talking about, where it's like, because he gets in the
Yeah, Mr.
car.
Famitsu, like, checkmate. I have much better technology.
Yeah, he's got a smaller mini disc player that's just like in the palm of
Because
his
he's
hand.
Japanese and in
Yeah.
the 90s, it's like, yeah, they did have better technology than
Yeah.
us. And they still do, but only in their own weird little
Yeah.
universe in Japan. It's like, the technology here is amazing. Doesn't work in America. It's like, why
Oh, yeah.
not? It's like, well, we don't do that kind of stuff here, but
Yeah, I used to hear like video game journalists would talk about like the crazy times when they would go to TGS, the Tokyo Game Show, and so like in between like Blackberries and the iPhone, like in that time, between 2000 and 2007, you would go to Japan and Sony would have some crazy fucking phone, like at the time where it's like you don't have video on your phone, you don't have the memory to hold that, and like here they got video phones that are doing crazy stuff, video conferencing, because like everyone lives in a city, everyone lives in one city in Japan, so you can do all this stuff there.
yeah.
um and then eventually the iPhone came out and killed all that stuff. It's like, oh yeah, that stuff was cool, but it's not this. So,
Yeah, that's the thing is we always sell ourselves short. It's like, America's falling behind the rest of the world. Look what they have in Japan. It's like, we're going to do something totally different and better.
yeah.
And it's like, and it's going to work for everyone, and it's going to be scalable, and it's going to be affordable, and it's going to make Apple the richest company that's ever existed. And that's the American way.
Yeah, and like in that exclusivity absolutely killed like Japanese tech, because who's the biggest cell phone makers now? Apple and Samsung. Neither of those are Japanese companies.
Which is bizarre. Well, then let's turn to Korea for a second, and then we got to get on with the show. But it's like Korea has like the crazy, like, oh, we got the fastest internet in the world. And it's like, oh, America sucks. Why can't we do that? It's like, I don't know, dude. You got about $1 trillion laying around, because that's what it would cost to wire up America like South Korea. Because I mean, we got to remember, South Korea is like the size of Maryland. It's like, if we just decided to like, okay, one state is going to be the tech state, it would be the most amazing tech state in the world. But we have this whole other country here that's never forget, it's not the largest country in the world, it's not the second largest, it's the third largest. But it's also like a first world country. Well, kind of, I guess, depending on who you ask. We might be trending in the wrong direction, but when Trump gets reelected, we're gonna turn that corner. It's all gonna get better.
Yeah, turn that car in the ocean.
Yeah. We're gonna turn the boat around in the ocean, but instead of going the other way, we're just gonna flip it over and see what happens, because it's never been done before. It's a new idea. They're all cowards. It's gonna be the best thing ever. It's gonna be the best.
They were the best cowards.
It's going to sink better than any ship has sunk. It's going to sink better than the Titanic.
It's the best failure that's ever happened. I'm doing like Trump mixed with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's the same thing.
Lenny starts selling Famitsu, but then Mace kicks him out. She's like, don't do that crap in the back of my car. She really hates the squid, or I guess not sure what they didn't really homogenize the name on this. It's because they call them vids, they call them jacked in, tripping, wire
Don't do
tripping.
that jack trip shit in my car.
So Mace gives him a talking to, one of many throughout this movie. Lenny
Mace is the best friend I've ever seen in a movie. It's like, you're going to self-destruct. I know you're going to self-destruct. You know you're going to self-destruct. I'm going to scream at you, but I will always be there for you. See, I'm the type of friend that's like, oh, I'm your friend. Oh, time to self-destruct? See you later. It's like, not Mace. She's locked in. She's like, we're gonna go through this together and have the same exact result every time.
I don't know how much like she's a friend or just like a really like forced AA like
yeah, she's like, is she a friend or like the best sponsor?
yeah
I don't know.
So Lenny and Famitsu get dropped off at a club that Lenny wanted to go to. It's like some punk rock, sex and drugs rock club thing going on here. Lenny sees Gant with Faith. He confronts Gant, and then Lenny gets thrown out the club. He sneaks back in by like breaking in a window through like a bathroom.
Yeah.
You see Steckler's in the crowd, although he's in plain clothes here. Then Lenny meets with a guy in the back who's like monitoring the club. Then the guy gets wired in, and like it's a video of a guy running on the beach because this guy doesn't have legs, so this is like his big thing. And then the other thing is like it's not just a guy running on the beach and looking at his legs. Then there's a pretty lady there too. It's like,
and she looks over her shoulder like, hi.
Yeah, they wave hi to each other. So it's and this guy's like,
and it's actually super sad.
Yeah,
it's like, oh, this guy's life sucks.
Yeah, but you also see
how far up does the paralysis go? Oh my god. Can you not get it up? What does it mean? What's going to happen in the video?
Well, you also see how happy this makes him, and then he just has to go back to reality immediately. So you don't know if like is that enough for that guy, or is this really hard to go back to real life? Is this like the hardest drug to do because you always have to go back to reality?
Yeah,
it's not just like you feel good and things look strange and then you're always chasing that high. It's like, no, I was that thing just a second ago, and now I am not.
Yeah, see, that would be really screwed up. Like, the stuff we do now, I mean, not we do, not me and you. I mean, we don't do drugs, but people do drugs because it's like they can't unmake whatever pain is in their life. All they can do is, like, just round the edges off the pain so it's a little less sharp. That's why a lot of people do booze and drugs. But imagine if like, oh no, this thing that I hate, I can be outside of it completely and be the thing I want to be or I was or whatever. And but it does, the sadness, the coming down from that is like, oh, I'm not that thing anymore. I was only that thing for like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
However long. These videos don't seem to run for a long period.
No, there's a limited record capacity.
Like, you can't live in this universe forever, but you can live in it long enough, which like sort of explains like the Philo character. The first time I watched this movie seemed a little random to me. Of like, oh, he's just like become psychotic. Like, why? Because in my mind, like, he's not getting high. He's not like changing his like how his brain chemistry works with drugs, which is what I understand. But then upon this watching of the movie, it's like, oh, if you're constantly living in other people's bodies and other people's lives, and there's all this horrible stuff going on in the background, and you have to have more and more intense experiences, it's like, well, of course you'd become a paranoid weirdo. Like you're dissociating on a level that has never existed before in human history. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm constantly in somebody else's body. I'm having sex or jogging or whatever.
Yeah, because those are all real experiences. So his paranoid is justified. It's like, look, I experienced it. This isn't just something I'm imagining.
So yeah, and like that's a lot of like the subtle genius that comes through this really flawed movie, where they don't. I mean, I don't know if I've said before. It's like how much I like this movie then and now, even though it's like got just gigantic plot holes you could drive a bus through, and the story sucks. But the acting and the greater imagined world that's going on in my mind while I'm watching this and painting or building something is really astounding. And that's why this movie worked for me on a lot of levels. It's like, this isn't a great movie to watch, but it is a wonderful movie to watch at the same time, because it like fuels your imagination. Like, what if something like this was real?
Yeah, how would
How
it?
weird, how
Yeah.
strange would the days get? So that's yeah.
Yeah,
But anyway,
once
go on.
technology invades the culture, what's going to happen? So you get
Yeah,
to,
and especially an invasion on this level because this is invading your mind.
yeah.
Drugs and booze wear off, like experiences don't. Over time they dull, but not if you're just re-experiencing that live all the time. Like that's insane. Like you're actually gonna go nuts. But yeah.
This guy gives him an envelope that has like a vid in it that so he doesn't know who it's from. It's just it's left for him. Um, Faith performs on stage. It's kind of like a sultry grunge tune going on here. She's kind of doing a kind of a Courtney Love thing here. That's her
I
kind of
think it's a
vibe.
PJ Harvey song cover that she
No,
did.
I'm saying her character is like
Oh,
Courtney Love.
okay. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was PJ Harvey like wrote and then Juliette Lewis performed it, which she definitely pulled off like '90s rocker chick. So I think
Juliette Lewis actually does her own music too.
yeah, I think she
Yeah.
does. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean she did her singing here, but there's a lot of people that there's like. Oh, who's that one porn star? Tracy Lords also was a musician on top of a porn star on top of a an actress.
Oh, good for her. Cool.
She had a lot of stuff, especially in like '90s and early 2000s techno. She was like the female voice in some like in between the rockin' beats.
Touch me, love me.
um Lenny Lenny goes back to talk to Faith, and he's wondering about like, hey, Iris is scared, what's going on? And then she warns Lenny of like getting paranoid, and so she tells Lenny off. It's like, yeah, it's over. And so then Lenny runs into Max, who's supposed to be guarding Faith, but like from a distance. And then Lenny gets thrown out of the club again. Where here it's funny because Lenny tries to talk his way out of the beating, and it almost works, but then he gets beaten up anyways.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, he used to play ball, right? It's like, yeah, he's appealing completely to this guy's ego because now he's a salesman, not a cop. And it doesn't work.
No, this guy's getting paid a lot more money. Well, the problem is Lenny doesn't have any cash on him.
Yeah.
He's always like, "Can I write you a check?" It's like, "No."
Well, here
Like,
he tries to do the Rolex trick again, and he's like, "That's okay, I have a real one."
Yeah.
Mace is back to pick up Famitsu, but then she just takes off with Lenny, so Famitsu never shows up in the movie ever again. Maybe he died at the club. We never know. They leave. Mace tries talking some sense into Lenny, but he just puts on a vid quietly in the back of the car, and it's a vid of someone breaking into a house. The guy like chases down and tases. This is Iris, and he cuffs her to a bar, and he tasers her some more. Lenny's yelling at Mace to go to a Sunset Hotel, and she's like, "Why?" And then inside the video, the guy puts a squid device on her, so that and then he starts raping her. So it's like so she can see the rape from his eyes. It's like that's fucked up.
Yeah, that's really dark. So that's when we get into some like, just like just the craziest stuff you thought you were reading in Altered Carbon. It's like, here it is, 30 years earlier.
Yeah. And then he kills her, which does he just choke her here, or does he like stab her with a knife? I can't remember.
No, he strangles her.
Okay.
It's a movie strangle where it's like as soon as you put a cord around someone's neck and twist, they immediately die.
Yeah.
It's not like really real life where it takes 15 minutes and they shit their pants. It's like, no one wants to experience that on a vid.
And then you get a close up on Iris's eyeball when she's dead, and you see like the killer's reflection, but he's got a mask on. And then they get to the hotel, and they cut to like Iris's body is being taken out of the hotel. So it's like, we're late. So now there's a murder mystery. We have all the technology lined up. There's stuff with the Jericho 1 where that's going to be a thing. There's some conspiracy there. So that's the end of Act 1, and that's like 45 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, we got like 19 plot points converging.
At least that's what I said was the end of Act 1. This is, I was being ahead of the time. I was like, I'm gonna get ahead of this movie. I'm gonna watch it on Thursday in case Nathan wants to watch it on Friday. And I was like, oh fuck, this is a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah.
This movie, I like this movie a lot, but it doesn't need to be 2.5
No, no, no.
hours.
There's too many. There's Vincent D'Onofrio and the other guy are wasted in this.
Yeah.
Essentially, there's a lot of wasted space in this movie. This movie's like it tries to be really sexy in a weird way, and it spends a lot of time doing that.
Yeah.
But in the context of like some of the violent stuff that goes on in the movie, it's like the opposite of sexy. It's like, oh, this is gross and vile. At least that was kind of my impression of some of the stuff. Again, this movie exists in my mind as a place of like, oh, I'm imagining the greater universe around this rather than the movie I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And it gets progressively worse the more I imagine. And this movie's pretty bleak already. So it's like, huh, all right.
Oh, and also it's sad looking at this movie. It's like, oh, this was the bleak future predicted. It's like, it's not wrong.
Yeah. We're not 100% wrong. We're not in the dystopian we've seen. We're in the dystopia we deserve. Right?
So if Act 2, Lenny meets with Max to show him like the blackjack of Iris getting killed. Here Max encourages Lenny to like work the case. They're like, yeah, we can't go to the cops with this. It's illegal just to possess this. So
Well, I think it's funny that Max is like eating Chinese food out of a container with chopsticks, and he watches this video and he's like, "Oh, my appetite's gone," and he throws the Chinese food away. With what you find out later in the movie, that's like super double weird scene you revisit in your mind. Like, oh, you already knew it. That's not going to spoil it, but it's like, okay, weird.
So yeah, here they like Lenny starts psychoanalyzing the perpetrator. So it's like it's like, oh yeah, like Lenny was the mine guy cop. He was a detective. He wasn't a boots on the ground guy.
Yeah, he wasn't a billy club cop. He was an outthink you vice cop.
Lenny goes to Gant's place. He tells Faith that Iris was murdered. Then they make Lenny leave. Gant and Faith talk vaguely about like a mystery for a moment, but then he just hits Faith. And he's like, just let me. So it's like okay, now we have to officially hate this guy. The elevator takes Lenny to a floor where it's like first you see it's like, oh, you think it's this because you see Mace is there and it's like, oh, it's gonna stop here, but then it keeps going and it goes down to where like Gant's thugs are there and they beat him up.
They're kind of a weird combination of thugs because the one gal looks like what's the guy's name? Yeah. Why am I drawing a blank on his name? Who's the guy who owns X and Tesla?
Oh, Elon Musk.
Yeah, the one girl looks like Elon Musk if he was a girl. And then the other two thugs are just like weirdos, like techno thugs or cyber thugs, and they're just beating Lenny.
Yeah, and they got like I don't know, like flour covered in flour or something. Like it's kind of weird. Yeah, I looked at the lady. I forgot. I didn't write her name. She's like Canadian. Because she looks like a strong woman, she like a bodybuilder, like in the women's division. But no, like her thing is she was a dancer, and so she was in like kind of some famous like dance group in Canada where like they did kind of like gender reversal stuff in the dance. So like in the like swing dancing, like you have like you had the bass, you have the guy who's heavier swinging around the lighter lady like she's nothing and doing twirls.
Oh, they inverted that?
Yes, so that's why she has like super beefed up arms and stuff like that.
Oh, wild. I thought she looked like Elon Musk if Elon Musk was a chick. That's what I saw her and I was like, who is this?
Well, there's a thing. Well, yeah, there's a mention because she has like really developed arms, and that's the kind of thing. So she's I don't know how muscly all around she is, but like they even make a point of it where it's like they're like, sorry, we couldn't find a smaller lady to beat you up.
Yeah, yeah, that was funny. You wouldn't want to fight with someone who's a professional dancer. Those people are incredibly
Those
strong.
people fucking torture themselves.
Oh yeah, they're like, pain. You don't have any idea. Like the pinhead guy from the Dimension X and Hellraiser. Pain, you say? It's like, oh shit! And this guy's like a dancer. This guy's doing river dance and he's beating my ass. Like, what the hell? Ugh.
So yeah, then Mace comes by and she starts beating up some of the thugs, and then Lenny hits the strong lady with the chair to put her down. So,
Yeah.
but you can't blame him; she's very strong. So yeah, hit her with a chair.
Mace does a cool reverse. Like she's like tells the guy who's pointing the gun at her head. She's like, "Oh, the safety's on," and he looks, and then she grabs it with both her hands and like twists it around. And
yeah,
it's like, yeah, she knows what she's doing. Because I figured after that she was just going to shoot him in the head, but she's like, no, she's not that evil.
Yeah.
Even though I actually probably would have been justified because she was pointing a gun in her head, but yeah.
I don't know. I doubt she trusts cops, so you know.
Yeah, she's probably not going to go to the police. Like, no, it's clear cut, safe case of self defense. Like, yeah, right, okay, okay, black lady, limousine driver, bodyguard, we're on your side, right? Yeah.
Then we cut to like I forget where they are, but like Lenny goes into like the cops being lazy and jaded towards like a sex worker being killed. So he's like, I gotta work this case from outside the system.
Yeah.
Mace gives Lenny a neck rub, which is his, and it's here. It's like really sad because it's like almost like it incapacitates him. It's like he doesn't know what real human like intimacy feels like anymore. So this like just turns him to a child essentially. Yeah. I mean, this isn't played up for sexual attention, even though it kind of is. It's like,
well, it shows that like again, this is one of the reasons. This is the only movie I've seen Angela Bassett like actually act. It's like, oh, she really cares for this guy.
Yeah. On
a level probably beyond friendship, but he is in such a weird state himself. He'll never see through that.
Yeah.
Which is extra sad. It's like, yeah, he just lives in this fantasy world when there's love right there in front of you, which is obvious and stupid and also very effective at the same time.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, damn it. You got me again with the kitten videos.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, this is partially written by, you know, James Cameron, who he does not stray from formula very much. He just executes formula usually perfectly.
Yeah, tell him he's wrong. Good luck. Damn it, I hate that you did that. That was cheap. And then there's like, here's a check for $1 billion. Ah, you win again. Touche, James Cameron. Now, go into one of your weird submersibles.
Here's where we get a flashback where like Mace's husband, she shows up to her house and her husband's being taken away. Lenny is one of the cops that arrested her husband, which here he's like sitting with her kid, like kind of like, hey, just distracting the kid from the father being taken away. Yeah, she's in a waitress uniform where it's like, this you all have to employ.
Waitress uniform.
Yeah.
Are you the waitress at the sock hop? Like, where are they wearing these uniforms?
Yeah, so it's weird. It's like what's her character's turn? Like, how'd she go from a waitress to like a bodyguard? I want to see that movie.
Now, how did she become like Worf? Like, what happened to this transformation? Yeah.
Well, yeah, her hair's like, because she has like dreads. Here she's just got like, I don't know, different kind of 50s haircut essentially.
Yeah.
And she looks dorky and stupid, and then she becomes like a cool badass who's also sexy. We got titles 2:27 p.m. 31st of December 1999. So it is New Year's Eve. Lenny gets a call in the morning from Max. He's at the funeral for Jericho. He's watching after Faith. He gets an envelope. Lenny gets an envelope. He's at his apartment. He gets an envelope in the window. It's another vid. He jacks it in. It's another blackjack video from the previous killer. Well, actually, it's not, because it just ends up being him walking in on Lenny sleeping and putting a box cutter to his throat. So this really scares the shit out of Lenny, which that's obvious. Which I mean, that's the cool thing here. They're kind of doing basic, like, stalker serial killer stuff here, but like the added twist of like the whole,
oh, you're in this guy's body and he's holding like a strap knife to your neck. Whoa, that's my neck, that's my body, and I'm in this guy's body, and I'm
you're afraid, but you're feeling his like joy.
Yeah, we're ready for this technology as a country right now. Let me just say that. Make it happen, Elon.
So,
You weird Canadian dancer.
when he busts out of the vid, he goes and grabs a gun and he goes looking after a noise he hears. Then he has to go back and grab the magazine for the gun because apparently they were separated.
Is this where Doug Stanhope got his comedy thing about having a Glock under the bed and why I don't own a gun? Because I'm not ready for I need a cigarette and a cup of coffee first thing in the morning before I have access to a firearm. If I had a Glock under the bed, I'd probably, eat a bullet. It was some Doug Stanhope.
Yeah.
When I saw that in this movie, I was like, is this a Doug Stanhope thing? I got the gun. It's like, oh, wait, yeah, I got to put, like, bullets in it. Better have a cigarette and a cup of coffee first before I put this thing in my mouth.
I don't know, yeah, like Doug Stanhope gets things for a lot of sources. He was probably like scamming ladies on the phone at this time.
Doug Stanhope has become my moral compass in this age of, loss.
Well, he's like I don't know. I don't know if true libertarian's the word. That's like kind of his thing, but he's still also just like, even though he hates people, he takes care of people. It's like, no, I'm fighting my own interests. Like, I know how weird this is, but like, people are people. If they can't take care of themselves, do it. It's like, and by the way, I helped kill my own mother because I'm a humanitarian.
Yeah.
So yeah, he goes looking for the sound, but it's just Mace, and she's unfazed by the gun being pulled on her. So I don't know if that's just like a kind of a fun joke here, or if that's a commentary. It's like, oh yeah, she's had the gun pulled on her so many times.
How bad is this society?
Cut to daylight riots. Then we cut to Tick is watching the Blackjack vid. Lenny brought it. Then we show that it's like Lenny brought it to him. It's not, because at first it's like, oh, is this being just distributed on the streets and everybody's seeing this? But like, no, it's just Lenny brought it to Tick. Tick mentions that it's like messed up, but not purely because of the content. He's like, no, man, the guy's vision's messed up. Like, he's got a brain tumor or he's colorblind or something.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting twist to think about. Like, oh yeah, if you're seeing through,
never thought of that.
Which is cool, because it's like, you could just introduce this technology and just have the one thing, but like, it's cool that it just goes deeper and deeper how everything gets affected by it.
Yeah.
Then TikTok talks about Iris like coming to see him, but wouldn't show him the video. And so they figure out that it's probably in his car that got towed away, because she said she put it in there. Then we cut to Mace and Lenny breaking into the impound. Mace is a guard dog, so
yeah.
It's like, yeah, is that why they call her Mace? I think it's her last name why they call her Mace. I forget. I wrote her full name down, but anyways. Lenny finds
her name is Lornette Mason.
Yeah,
her central name is Mace.
Yeah.
Steckler, like the spike ball you swing. The fixed one, not the Morningstar fixed ball, which actually makes more sense to me than the spike. Because the spike ball on the chain, I'm going to hit myself in the head with that.
I forget there's a reason for the chain, why it does it. Because, yeah, it seems impractical, but I forget there's like a reason. It's like, oh, yeah, that's why they do that.
Has probably something to do with being on horseback and, that thing flailing around. Like, you could do that over your head on a horse, where if you were standing on the ground, it would be like someone would just stick a sword in that.
Oh yeah. It might be a thing where like if you hit somebody on a horse, that might like be too much resistance and drag you off the horse.
Yeah.
But if it's on a chain, it'll just kind of rattle off the guy, and you'll still be a hold of it. So,
oh, the Middle Ages.
Oh, the problems you have to solve then. It's so quaint.
Yeah. The world was so simple then.
Yeah, let's try not to die of dysentery. The only thing you had to worry about.
Yep. Why was everyone such an alcoholic? Because everyone was shitting in the water supply. That's why they were drinking beer and wine all the time. Had to hydrate with beer. Bill.
Lenny finds the vid in his car. Steckler and Engelman like hold them up, and they take the tape. Then Steckler shoots at Lenny, and he kind of like ducks away. And then the guard dog shows up and goes after Engelman. Um, Mace shoots Steckler, but he's wearing a vest, and so like Mace and Lenny like get out of there, but Steckler gives chase in his Dodge Ram.
Yep.
uh, yeah, which became a thing in the '90s, like this and Twister. Just
Oh,
Dodge Rams.
those are really cool cars. Let me tell you, Mace's car was one of my favorites.
Yeah,
It was a '94 Chrysler New Yorker. Now I haven't seen the stretch limo, but I have a thing with those cars. I really liked that era of Chrysler vehicles because those the New Yorkers was like that was like their attempt at a Lincoln, and this was before the Chrysler 300 and all that. So
yeah,
they just had big V6 engines. They were front wheel drive, but those cars were so nice. They were so nice inside. They had really floaty suspensions. I always wanted one. I couldn't afford one, but I knew people that had them, and yeah, that's a. And I think for this movie to make it futuristic, they just put a weird like gridded grill across the lights.
yeah,
But yeah, seeing the old Dodge Ram pickup, I remember though that era of Ram pickup really gave Ford a run for its money for best sales.
yeah,
But then the same thing that killed them was the same thing that always killed Chrysler was like, oh, the quality's terrible on
yeah.
these things. It's like, oh, wow, this really looks cool. Too bad the engineering sucks, but yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, they bumped all up. They bumped all the initial stats up, but then the stats in the long haul don't help out.
Those weren't actually bad trucks if you got them with I forget. My friends are going to crucify me. I'm going to get this wrong. I don't know if it was the 318 V8 or the 360 V8. Some of those like are still on the road.
Yeah,
Like they were like almost that 70s era of trucks where they're just like going to run forever because they're really simplistic. Now they're just like, oh, do you want a full size pickup and you don't want to spend a lot of money? Well, if you don't have Silverado or F-150 money, you get the Dodge because um, it's like oh, I forget. I think the Dodge Rams are $15,000 to $20,000 cheaper than the F-150. And you're getting a nice full size truck, but you're getting an old, it's all old technology.
yeah,
So F-150, you're getting like, oh, I can fly through space and time with this, but you're also like having a payment bigger than my mortgage on my home. So it's like, well, that would be nice, but that's not happening.
So yeah, they're giving chase in the Ram. Engelman's firing a full auto rifle, which I guess it's not a rifle because I looked this up. It's like, what is that thing? I thought it was just like an AK-47. I guess it's an OA-93, which is like a AR-15 variant pistol.
Oh, so he's firing a short stock. He's firing like a port gun.
Yeah,
essentially.
essentially, yeah.
Okay.
It's not. I mean, it's not exactly that. They have some weird gas tubing on it that's like serves as like the carry handle and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a weird gun.
Never heard of it.
I was assuming someone looked at it and was like, this is kind of futuristic. Let's just get this.
Yeah.
Because always
sounds cool. We're gonna give it a cool sound.
yeah, because OA I think it stands for Olympic Arms, so they made him. I'm not sure what that.
Something
sure.
William Fichtner could fire out of a window of a car
Yeah.
or a truck.
They got cornered and because they're like they like almost like fall off a dock and then they back up. They also mentioned that this car is bulletproof, or she says
Bullet resistant.
Bullet resistant.
Yeah, because they've lost a tire at this point, but it's a rear tire, and on a front wheel drive car, that's like it's not a drive thing. That's just going to drag along. But then they mix the two. This is one of the coolest scenes in this movie. It's like, how are we going to get these people out of this armored car? It's like the same way you get them out of a tank. Gallon of gasoline and a road flare. They're coming out. And it mixes the two biggest fears you have into one scene. I'm either going to burn alive or drown. Brilliant. Brilliant scene.
Yes, yeah, they can't leave the car because they're just waiting by to shoot them. And so,
and also the door won't open on one side because
yeah.
Because Mace is willing to get out there and shoot, but
yeah,
she can't get out.
And then Lenny says like the gas tank's gonna go at any moment. So then she just grabs onto the seat. She just holds onto the seatbelt. She doesn't put it on, and then hits the gas, and then dumps it in the river. And he's like, "Why'd you do that? Now the fire's out." So it's like, yes, we solved one problem. We have to solve another. And then like they work their way to the trunk area where Mace uses a shotgun to shoot the trunk open. They swim ashore. I forget. Like they end up just missing
Well, they're under the
England.
pier,
Okay. Okay.
and they use the Navy SEAL like silent surfacing technique so the guys don't hear them because they're not coming up like you probably actually would after like, oh yeah, I almost got burned alive.
um.
Actually, I don't know if there was a Navy SEAL silent surfacing technique. I just totally made that up. So.
I know there's that great scene from, or at least in the commercial for Act of Valor, where like they stab a guy and then like he starts, or they shoot or stab a guy or something, and as he starts to fall into the water, the hands come up to stop him, and then they just like slowly pull him underwater.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's like on a boat or a pier or something. And
Yeah.
it's like just gently guide his soul into the afterlife. It's the warrior's way. It's how we die. I don't know. I'm just spitballing at this point.
So yeah, they make their way ashore, and like now they escape the Engelman and Steckler. Mace feels defeated that he just handed them the video because he's like, well, that's the key to everything. And then Lenny reveals that he kept the video.
And then he's like, hey, are you impressed yet? And it's like, she should be like, motherfucker, I just saved us from being shot up, lost my potentially, let's see, I got a 2000 or like late 90s era car I had bulletproofed. It's like it's $100,000 car sitting at the bottom of the bay. No, I'm not impressed.
You know insurance not going to cover that.
Yeah.
Oh, sure, the cops fired at you.
Oh, yeah. We're here to process this claim. You know, you've made all your payments, but fuck you. Been a customer for 20 years. Kiss my ass.
How do you think we make money? We don't make money by following through on our contract.
Yeah, did you think that whole "we're here for you" shit is true? And that little wizard and all the cavemen, it's like that's just a way to get you dumbasses to sign up for this stuff. And then when your vehicle gets stolen, we're gonna sick the cops on you like you're part of some car theft ring that like doesn't exist in anyone's mind but theirs. And whatever.
Mace gets her friend Curtis.
I'm not bitter about the Michigan stuff at all.
Mace gets her friend Curtis to like take them around now because they don't have a car. Nobody has a car. This is still at the impound. Hers at the bottom of the pier.
Yeah, they're driving like a '67 Dodge Dart. It's like, oh, that's a cool car. I don't know what the car is actually, but it's something like that.
They stop off to pick up Mace's son Xander. Then they go to another place that's like a safe place, but it's just like a block party in the neighborhood, which I guess that would be safe.
Watts essentially.
Yeah. There's no cops there. Then Lenny sets up the rig so that they can watch the vid. So you can watch the vid. You don't see what he sees, and he's done with it. And then Lenny makes Mace see it. He's like, "You just got to see it for yourself." So it's like, "Oh, this has got to be big then." So it's
you just
Mace.
Got to tie off and shoot for the first time.
And so it's Mace's first playback. That's what they say here. So in the playback, it's Iris is hanging out with Jericho, who I wrote Glenn Plummer is his name. He's been in hundreds of things. I probably most know him as like he's the guy that in Speed that he steals his Jaguar before he hops on the bus.
Yes. Okay. I remember that scene.
But he's literally been in hundreds of things, so you know this guy from stuff. Which I think that was the same. Yeah, that was the same year as this. So yeah, he has a good year for him.
Oh yeah, he's getting a lot of like 5-minute roles. A very distinctive looking man too. You know who this guy is as soon as you see him.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times he has like here he has the dreads and he does that in a lot of stuff too. But like, he can also do other hairstyles and look completely different. Here, see, it's Steckler, and so this is all from the point of view of Iris. Steckler and Engelman arrest Jericho. Steckler recognizes Jericho and like hates his like community organizing because it's like all about like the cops are bad. We gotta do this ourselves, and so
Literally, like, refers to it as that. It's like, oh yeah, you get the people downtown to sign up for benefits or something, like that's a bad thing. It's like no one would actually talk like that. It's like you're getting these kids fed. Like screw you, man. Nobody would really vocal, or maybe they would. I don't know. Maybe I
Why
missed.
solve other people's problems? Just let other people solve their own problems,
Yeah.
or they die.
Have you ever read Hobbes? Have you ever read Leviathan? Let the devil take the hindmost. Don't you know what's going on? This is America, damn it. It'd be cool if, yeah, like the D'Onofrio character became like an 18th century, like economic philosopher. This is why you're wrong, and then he just shoots him. It's like, whoa.
Yeah, that's what Sackler does. Sackler just shoots Jericho, and then the rest of the group, and Iris runs away. Then a train assists in her getaway because she like jumps just in front of the train, and so that keeps
Some real crazy like first person stuff going
yeah.
on through all this. Really good.
Oh, and I forget my favorite thing. This is what I was most impressed about like this movie is there's the part where it's in first person and she pulls down the mirror in the car and looks into the mirror. It's like, oh yeah, how did they do that? That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I actually don't know how they did that. I think they just had her probably over someone's shoulder and then just like had the mirror like arched it a different way to see her face or something like that. Or they did some green screen stuff. I'm not sure. I don't know. I didn't actually look up the behind the scenes on that, but it's
Well,
a
it
great
was a $40 million movie from the mid '90s. So yeah, we they could, and it was produced by Lightstorm, which was Cameron's group. So.
yeah. Well, last time I remember like a mirror thing like that, they did that in Terminator 2, but that they did that with because oh, what's her name?
Linda Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton has a twin sister, and so they had her twin sister on one side of the mirror, and then they had Linda Hamilton and Arnold on the other side, and then they had like a fake dummy with her twin on the other side of the mirror. And so there was no actual mirror in the shot. It was just them posed on the two different sides of just an empty frame.
Nice.
And then so on the one side, it's her twin sister digging into the head of the Terminator. You're like, how did they do that? It's like, oh, it's not a mirror. That's how they did that. Which I wonder if her sister had to get jacked as well, or they just like not put a lot of clothes on her.
I don't know. I'd have to think back to that scene because I know Linda Hamilton.
Oh, it's a cut scene. You might not have seen it. It's not in the standard release. It's like
I have the T2 special
Okay.
edition. It's one of those movies I watch all the time. When it's like, this and Wrath of Khan is like this is how you do sequels. It's like this is what works.
Yeah.
You make it better and different than the original instead of just like less than. Actually, Wrath of Khan was a lot of less than in terms of budget. But it was a whole lot better movie, just story wise. But yeah, that's because what did Patton Oswalt say about Star Trek: The Motion Picture? It was a lot of pastel colors and people being angry all the way through a movie that had no point. Or Patton Oswalt always has this brilliant movie insight. But anyway.
So yeah, then we cut back to reality, and then Mace is like really affected by the experience. Like I think like tears are streaming from her eyes.
Yeah.
Because like not only did like like that guy got shot and a lot of hope went away, but also she just experienced all this fear from this woman running for her life. To eventually
she's never done this before in her life. She's never jacked into this simulated or not simulated. I was really happy.
Yeah, really.
Like real experience universe of
There's also a thing like I think it's either now or it's before she started the vid. He's like, "Got to close your eyes, or you're gonna see double vision," which that was like a cool idea that they don't follow up on. Like they don't ever show that, but it's just another little quirk. It's like, oh yeah, that could be a thing because you're now seeing into someone else's eyes, and so. But you see that people do kind of like break from the simulation and like jump into reality, and it's like, oh, that's got to be like a weird haze to bust through, but they don't really get through that. They don't convey
Yeah,
that.
I was kind of wondered, like, is that your safety net? It's like I'm opening my eyes now. Screw this. I can't handle this experience. But never really like no one does it.
Well, no,
So
they don't have to close their eyes to see the vision. It's just like if you're experienced, you can have your eyes opened, but like she's not
yeah, but that
experienced.
doubling of your vision would be
Yeah,
like, oh no, I am grounded in the real world.
yeah.
Like this isn't actually happening to me. I know not. Again, that's the problem with this movie is like I imagine so many other things going in addition to the 19 plot threads that to somehow come together or not satisfactorily. I'm always like, yeah, what about this? What if you do that? What if you do this? And you can see why this movie wasn't a hit, but is also an important movie.
Yeah,
You know, to discuss later.
yeah. I'm not sure if this is a cult classic now, but it does have fans. It is a good movie that got missed. So,
There's a lot of people because I did do some research on like what do other people think about this movie, and there's a lot of people who like I don't know if they have like quite my take on it, but they definitely because you always hear this stuff like ahead of its time or whatever. It's like I don't like that. No, it wasn't. It's actually it was a victim of its time. It wasn't ahead of its time. But I do see a lot of people like almost doing like that. What do you call that? Um, it's like you want to reinvent the continuity that the film existed in,
yeah.
and it's like no, it's prescient now because of this and because of that, and so that there are people doing that with it. But it's something they tried to bury because they lost like $32 million on this movie. So
Yeah.
um,
Or
but yeah,
more, or whatever, however much money they spent on advertising, which seemed to be probably not a lot.
not a whole lot. I mean, I went and saw this because of Schindler's List. I was like, oh, the Schindler's List guy's in this. And Angela Bassett's hot, and Juliette Lewis again is everyone's favorite toxic girlfriend from the '90s. So,
But also, if you look at the poster for this movie, doesn't explain shit, doesn't make you want to see the movie.
no, it's just a lot of people staring into the camera wide-eyed, like
Yeah.
what's happening here?
And it says "Strange Days." Like this explains nothing.
It's strange. It's gotta be strange.
Yeah, but Lenny's on the phone with Max. So then they're back on the road. There's more chaos. Like the National Guard's out with tanks in the streets, which they missed that because the cops would just have the tanks now.
Yeah. Yeah, we wouldn't need like guys in green uniforms. No, it'd be the blue guys with like M50 tanks or Saracen troop transports or whatever.
Um, yeah, and they shot this movie in L.A., so that's just another great thing. It's like sometimes you get fantastic production when you shoot in LA because that's where they live.
Yeah.
Like when they're done for the day, they go home, and there's just kind of a better energy, and the city's built for it of shooting movies there.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's like you want to get 1 million people out on the streets to be in a movie. It's like, yeah, they're going to show up.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to turn right back around and walk 100 feet and go to their homes. Hey, I was in a movie. Isn't it cool to live here? Sometimes. Live there, but never will, I hope.
They pull up to Tick's van. He's overdosed on playback, or here they say he's been cooked off because I don't know. So like he's not dead, but he's basically completely debilitated. So
yeah, his heart and lungs is working, but his higher reasoning stuff has all been fried. And at first, I was unclear. It's like, did he do this to himself? And then it's implied it's like, no, somebody did this to him. Like they turned the amp up on the device or whatever. Yeah. I'm only guessing because it doesn't exist and it doesn't matter. But yeah, so his brain was deliberately fried, I think.
They do cut to his perspective, and it's just kind of all warbly orange. So it's like, okay, that looks messed up. So,
is this what a lobotomy looks like?
And so here, and Max is here, and this is where he's suggesting that it's a conspiracy that goes all the way up the chain, and there's like a cop hit squad out there.
So dark police, the dark forces are.
Yeah. So that's where I was originally building that thing about like, old people with money like ruin everything, and then like, technology is the only thing that put an unwanted technology is put sabotage the machinery or whatever. um, then we cut to Faith is performing at the club, and then Faith like leaves the stage angry, which I kind of like that, where it's like, yeah, the performance was better because you just used all her anger of her life to put into the performance, and then when she was done with it, she felt bad and still angry.
Yeah.
Lenny grabs Faith in the back, and
He
they're
had like a post-drug clarity moment right there on stage.
Yeah, Lenny grabs Faith, and like they go back to kind of like figure things out because they're like, yeah, you're in danger, so we need to get you out of here. Talk about Gant's like hooked on playback, and he's wiretapping people, including Jericho. So that's why like the Iris vid happened, because like she was spying on Jericho.
Yep. Which is one of the few things that like ties together nicely in this movie and makes sense. It's like, oh, that's why that was recorded. Okay.
Yeah, and it's ironic because like that's the intended use of the original intended use of the product is to spy on people.
Yeah. Spy rig.
And then there's a flashback of Gant like betraying Iris, because this is like where she comes to him with the video. It's like, oh yeah, these cops just killed this guy. And then we have Faith is running away with Mace and Lenny, and then the thugs give chase. And then Gant shows up and attacks Lenny with a liquor bottle, which just completely destroys him. And then he takes Faith away. So
I don't think the bottle breaks, so he's taking like full hits from this thing.
Well, yeah, I think it comes a couple. I think it breaks on the second hit, so it makes it extra.
Oh, okay. I thought
because it's a big clunk at first, and then he hits him again, and then he just like cracks open. And then he's covered in blood and liquor. So it's like, well, that's got to sting.
The wounds are clean, but damn, this hurts.
So that being the end of Act 2. So you have Act 3. Gant shows up at some event where like the press is like hounding him because they're asking about Jericho and stuff. Max calls Lenny to try.
You gotta remember, Gantz is essentially like the like
he's an
David
agent.
Geffen or Richard Spector of the of this movie. Like, he's a big time movie or music producer.
Yeah,
he's not just like a club owner, but that's not really clear until like this part of the movie. It's like,
he must be important because
he's is that his name? Phil Spector.
He's being hounded by the press, so he must be important.
Mm-hmm.
Max calls Lenny to try to set up a deal with like Gant, like the tape for Faith, and is like, okay. Here Mace is like trying to like, she's trying some more tough love to trying to break through with Lenny and his junky ways. So this is unintentionally the most famous thing from this movie is this moment, because this dialogue from this scene is in a Fatboy Slim song called Right Here, Right Now.
Okay. I did recognize this.
Which is, I think it's something like... And it's like, right here, right now, right here, right now. So,
yeah, but it just plays in a loop for like, 30 seconds. Yeah.
So that's from this movie, and that's from this scene.
I thought I didn't remember it was Fatboy Slim, but I did recognize it. Because the way it's played back is also sped up. It's like right here, right now, right here, right now.
Well, it doesn't sound like Angela Bassett. It sounds like a 13-year-old or something like that.
Thought I recognized that.
So yeah, go look that up on YouTube. And maybe use a Firefox browser with the block thing. So, because they started instituting that, where like YouTube's like, we don't allow ad blockers, and you just click an X. But you can.
I upgraded to YouTube Premium a long time ago, so I don't worry about
that. But you can just open up Firefox and put the ad blocker on there, and then it'll just work anyways. Which it looks like maybe YouTube went away with that, because I haven't seen that anymore. That's not saying like, hey, we don't allow ad blockers, so they might have.
When I canceled all my streaming services and I realized like 90% of my viewing was on YouTube, I'll just get YouTube Premium.
Yeah, I just don't want to. For some reason, I don't want to get that, because with YouTube, it's like I just don't know the quality that's going to come at me. Even though I still pay for Netflix and most of it's garbage, but whatever.
Yeah.
um,
Here, explain this scene. I'll be right back.
Nathan will be right back. Um, but yeah, you can go on to Firefox and get an ad blocker, and you don't have to worry about watching ads because all the ads on YouTube are terrible and almost terrifying. Never get anything there. I know we're currently on YouTube, but I don't get any monetization out of this, and maybe someone else does. But specifically for this, this is why I didn't play the Fat Boy Slim song here. I just played it on the piano, so I created it technically. Um, so yeah, I don't get any money off of YouTube, so block away. um, so yeah, we got where were we? Yeah, so Mace is giving um Lenny like a it's like this is real life right here right now. um and this is a scene where you realize that like Lenny's like talking about like the sad life of Faith, and basically she was like, I don't know, maybe even underage at the time. She was just like a sex worker that came to LA to try to make some of herself, and like he kind of saved her, and then they end up dating at some point, which that's super weird. And but here he's describing about like hey, like I know she's never coming back to me, but you do know that like I still care about her. And like he says, like, I promised to protect her, so I have to go after her. It's not like I want to, it's like I'm compelled to. And I know I'm never going to get her back, but like how like that feels. And then this is just like the sad reflection of like that's sort of how like Mace and Lenny's relationship is that here it's like Mace, wants to protect Lenny, and then even there is a like there's an attraction there, but like he's so far gone that like she knows that's never going to happen, so she's just taking care of him. But she still loves him anyways, and so that's why she's there to protect him, even though she's tried to throw him out of her life like a million times. um, but but she ends up like agreeing with him. Is like, yeah, I guess we're gonna go save Faith. And she's like, we're going in an ambush. She's like, oh yeah, I know.
Which is something I appreciate. It's like they're not just so stupid. It's like we're going to get the upper hand here. It's like, no, these psychos are ready for this. They've obviously been preparing this for some time.
So we got titles 1109 50 31st of December 1999. The Millennium Party is going.
Nakatomi building.
The Millennium Party is going down. It's a huge crowd. I don't think they did any CGI or anything here, or matte paintings, and this was just a real giant crowd for a rave, a Millennium rave in LA. So,
well, reviews of this movie called it a what do they call it? A riot party. Because it was ostensibly some kind of riot / party, and so the way it was filmed, it did kind of look like that.
Yeah. But that's all real people being filmed there. That's not. That's not like they brought this to the productions. Like no, because nowadays that'd just be all CGI. So
yeah.
Here they just like, we're just gonna do that. There's still chaos around, but it's still like everybody trying to go enjoy a concert. But there's just Molotovs every once in a while.
Yeah.
Mason, Lenny,
I'm having fun, but I keep being engulfed. It's kind of hard to get in the rhythm here.
Mason and Lenny leave their car as it gets like beat up. It's like, I guess time to get out of here. It's like
the car is literally being destroyed as they get out of it. It's like, well, as long as we exit the vehicle, the crowd won't attack us. It's like, okay, I hope so.
Yeah, it is weird because like they beat up the car and then they get out of it and just walk away like nothing happens. They don't attack them. They're just like, well, keep beating up the car. So
we hate metal and rubber.
The Lakers won.
Yeah.
Lenny comments awkwardly about like her sexy dress because he's like because this is where they're trying to like suddenly build the relationship. It's like, it could happen, but this is the wrong time for it to happen, so it probably won't. But he's like, it's a good dress, not on you. Like, it wouldn't be a good dress on me. It's like, Yeah, it probably would. But yeah.
Yeah, I like you, but we're going to save my psychotic ex-girlfriend who I'm still obsessed.
So they make their way into the building, and there's like a multicultural entertainment. I don't know. They got I don't know, like Native American or Indian or Mongolian. I don't know. They got a bunch of stuff going on here.
Yeah, it looked like a kind of a pan-Asian like entertainment venue going on. I wasn't sure how to classify it.
But everyone's here because like Gant's here, and then like Strickland's here. Uh,
The commissioner's there,
yeah,
getting out of a
that's
Mercedes-Benz
yeah.
limousine, which is like, oh, that's good for an LA public official to
Yeah, this is
foreign
where the
car.
money's going.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we can't afford to keep our police on the streets, so we have to buy $200,000 limousine and 90s bucks.
uh, Here Mace gives Lenny an ultimatum to like not pawn the tape, because here they're like, oh, we're gonna trade the tape for Faith, and then Mace is like, oh no, this is gonna change the world. Like that's a cheap trade. You can't just
Yeah,
do
please don't betray like my people and everything I stand for, so you can have some kind of weird abusive relationship with this psycho ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, you're gonna save this girl that you're not going to date because
Yeah.
that's not in the cards anymore. Um, so yeah, Lenny like kind of like runs off, but then he comes back around and he gives the vid to Mace, and he's like, "Go to Palmer Strickland. He's the tight. He's like a tightwad. So he's the cleanest cop I know." And he's like, and I hate him. So um,
You can
and so
trust this guy to you're through the power of persuasion, you're going to talk him into using an illegal device to do the truth.
yeah, she tries to get him to see a tape and say like it's evidence like your cops killed Jericho 1, and so he's like, that's illegal, lady, get out of my face. um um and so she tries to give him the tape, and she almost gets arrested, and then she just kind of like walks out of there. um then we cut to Lenny like works his way to Gant's room. Then we cut to Mace gets caught up with Gant's thugs, but then she gets away. And then Engelman spots Mace, and so now he's going after her. Then we cut to Lenny goes into the apartment, and there's like broken bottles on the ground, and it's silent, so it's very eerie. And then there's an envelope for Lenny with a vid in it, so it's like, well, this doesn't look good. Lenny watches the vid, and it's like the killer is watching Faith, and then Faith is handcuffed to the bed, and then the camera looks over, and it's like, oh, Max is a killer, which is another thing where it's like, oh, the camera looked at the mirror, and the camera's not in the mirror. That's amazing.
It's very
yeah.
weird. That scene in particular is like that scene at the end of The Shining when Halloran sees the guy in the pig mask blowing the other guy. It's like, what's going on? But it was Tom Sizemore and his weird blonde wig.
I forgot. I thought I wrote this is like where I know exactly. I forgot because I put down where I was like, oh, Max is the killer. It's like earlier on, but there was like, because it was like, I think, well, maybe it was when this moment when this moment started to happen. I was like, oh, Max is a killer. Because that's when I remembered that when Max was introduced, they talked about him getting shot in the head, and it's like, oh yeah, Tick said it, like the guy's brain is screwed up. And it's like, oh yeah, he's got a bullet in the head, so he's the killer. So,
yeah. And by the way, he got what would you call that? A medical retirement from the police because of that bullet injury.
Yeah,
because he technically can't do his cop job, but then he can fight like a 500-pound. I just smack him in the back of the head, push the bullet into his brain stems, fight over. But I don't know. Do things that make sense. God damn it.
Then Faith is being choked in the vid, and then Lenny takes the thing off because he doesn't want to see her die, and he goes in the room and he sees a body under a blanket, so he's like, well, that's got to be her. But then it's revealed it's just Gant, and he's got his brain fried, and he's under the cloth. Then he goes back into the vid where Faith is being raped. Oh, this is when Max looks over. Okay, like that further one. That's when I was guessing. Like, oh yeah, Max is a killer.
Happens after. Okay, yeah. Okay.
That when I said Max is a killer, that was my guess. So that was just before he looks over at the mirror. So this is where he looks over the mirror, revealing that he's the killer. And And then it's also where it's like I wrote in Faith is in on it. um,
Question mark.
yeah, and then and then, yeah, we're still in the vid, and then Max. So we're like through Max's eyes. He puts a gun in Gant's mouth and like then fries his brain with the rig. Then we cut to back to reality, and Max is holding a gun on Lenny, and Max shoots Gant with Lenny's gun because he makes him hand it over. So it's like, okay, this is the setup. I mean, this whole thing, it ties everything up, but this is just betrays the whole movie. So
Yeah,
it's like,
not the dumbest part of this movie. We're really into Stupidsville here.
because it's like, oh yeah,
Why this movie failed.
it's like, yeah, because it's like, oh, is all this gonna mean something? And it's like, no, it's just all weird circumstances. Yeah, nothing's really what it seems, and it's less conspiratorial and less, world changing. um, yeah. Then so like Gant hired Max to kill Iris and Faith, and but then he like turns it around where like to get down Gant, and then Max and Faith were a thing, and then
Surely based on the sex with Max and Faith, like that's
yeah,
why he betrayed Gant.
yeah.
It's like, well, you never had sex before, dude. What do you think? All these people are like wildly unstable, and you're gonna inject yourself in the middle of this, and it's like, oh, because I can have sex with this woman, I'm just gonna like make really big risks and do danger. It's dumb. It's just stupid. But.
And so yeah, they're gonna make Lenny take the fall, and then even here he's Lenny's calling Max his best friend, and he's like, yeah, make your best friend take the call, and he's like, yeah, well, nothing's perfect, and it's like, yeah, that's your writer making an excuse for your bad movie.
Doesn't he make some like statement like the world's gonna end in 15 minutes anyway, so
Yeah.
who cares? It's
Yeah.
like, oh, so you're a sensationalist too. You're just like a stoic, hedonist that it's like, yeah, we're gonna die anyway. Live how you will,
Yeah, and like his whole thing where it seems like he's the creepy serial killer, it's like he is, but was he just doing that for money, or is that him as well? Is this all convenience? Like, oh, is finally his passion fell into his lap and he got paid to do everything he's imagined?
Yeah, did he finally get a chance to scratch that itch and profit from it, or is it just sex with Faith is world moving?
Or is it because he was a cop and he knows if he does something crazy and weird that it'll just be blamed on somebody else? It's like, well, a cop wouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, and because like anyone can wear the VR rig or the squid rig and have sex with Faith, you can be like, dude, it wasn't that good. It's not worth like bodies behind you. I had sex with her too, practically, and it's like maybe you're going over but again, this is the plot I'm imagining in my head, not the plot as it happens. So.
I mean, because what I guess would make more sense is that like Vincent D'Onofrio killed Jericho 1 and is also the sex creep.
Yes, that would be a good D'Onofrio use.
But it'd here they
fair
just
play for D'Onofrio.
But here it's just the twist because like this is the M. Night Shyamalan ending that doesn't work, which most of his endings don't work.
Don't say that. Can't be mean to him. Now, see, I take umbrage with the Nolan brothers, but M. Night Shyamalan, I'm all in on. I don't know if that says something about me or them.
Well, I mean, a lot of his movies hinge on the third act, and a lot of the third acts don't work.
Yeah, they don't.
But when they do, it's great. Yes,
yeah, it's amazing.
It's why you look at this guy as like, this guy can be Spielberg.
And I also like Lady in the Water, even though nobody else did, just for the weirdness of it.
Probably got to do that for this at some point, because I haven't seen it.
Gotta do that, because I can fill 5 hours of just bullshit about like, this is like my life, Conlon. You don't understand. No, but yeah, this movie just gets into like, it's like everyone's been brain damaged by the squid at this point, even the writers, because why are we going this way? I forgot how much the last act of this movie sucked.
Yeah.
Because I felt so good. It's like, maybe this is better than I remember. Maybe this should have been a hit. And then I was like, no, this is why it shouldn't.
This is why third acts are important.
Yeah.
This is usually this is what makes or breaks a movie.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's rarely movies where like, yeah, the first two acts are bad, but man, that third act, that rarely happens. If you don't make a good third act, nobody's getting to your. If you don't make a good first act, nobody's getting to your third act. If you don't make a good third act, nobody cares about your movie.
Well, this is why I do my own Blade Runner third act edit, original Blade Runner, because
Yeah.
after Gaff says it's too bad she won't live, but then again, who does? I just hit stop. I'm like, oh, that's the end of the movie for me. That's Nathan's edit. I don't want to see him driving in the car. You know, it's like, nope, yep, too bad she won't live. Who does? Okay, cool. Thanks, Gaff. I'm out. That's my Blade Runner third act edit. I just hit up on the VCR, and I still do.
So yeah, the whole cop thing was just incidental to the situation. It was just like a cover for them to do crazy stuff in the background. Just a catalyst to the chaos I wrote here. They tell a story of how Faith met Max while he was watching her. Faith doesn't let Max shoot Lenny. Then Faith gets shoved to the ground, and then Max and Lenny fight, and then Lenny and Faith fight Max. Then Max, like, it's revealed, like, oh yeah, his crazy hair. It's like, oh, he's had the squid on like the whole time. That's his whole life is having the squid on. Or maybe it's the only thing that makes him function. I don't know.
He's got that bullet in his brain, which was why he got a medical pension.
Yeah.
But then, like I said, he can fight like a wounded bear in this last scene. And all of a sudden, Lenny can fight too. Everyone's fighting.
Yeah, Max stabs Lenny in the back, and then Then Max tackles Lenny through the window to the balcony. Max goes to throw Lenny out the balcony. Lenny reverses it like it's a wrestling match. You know, the good old Irish whip here.
Yep. Oh.
Then Max is hanging off the ledge, and he's off the ledge completely. He's hanging on to Lenny's tie, which they make a point of, like, that he hates his ties. Now it's the only thing that's keeping him alive at the moment.
And his ties are really expensive, which means they can hold weight. Because if silk can do anything, it can hold weight.
Yeah. I think in the scene, I don't know, maybe the shot way later, but like, Tom Sizemore in the scene looks like way bigger than he does in the rest of the movie.
Yeah. It's his Hans Gruber moment.
Yeah. But then it's great because Lenny still has the knife in his back, and he pulls the knife out of his back to cut his tie to kill Max. And so
I like that. I was
that's
like,
good.
I want to have that opportunity someday in my life to pull the knife out of my own back and cast my betrayer to hell. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I wrote a funny, weird scene where, like, these guys, they hate each other, and there's always that thing in movies where, like, somebody throws a knife, or somebody's like a good knife thrower,
Yeah.
and nobody ever makes a mistake. Because whenever, like, you see that in a movie and you go and practice throwing knives at a tree, and then half time it just bounces off, just clangs off the handle.
This guy, yeah.
So I wrote them like they're trying to kill each other with a knife, and they just keep hitting each other with the handle.
You're like, oh, god damn it!
Yeah.
Ah,
And then
it's gonna bleed like crazy, and he throws it at him again. Oh,
yeah, and so eventually it starts sticking in each other, and they're like hitting each other in the chest, and then they pull it out and just back and forth until they're like bleeding out and tired.
They've each got like 1/4-inch wounds all over their body.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's played for comedy.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it would be funny. Yeah, in a Blazing Saddles sense.
And so, in a similar way, I had another scene, like, you know, in those movies where, like, you know, it's really bad, like, Canadian sci-fi movies where, like, they shoot the bad guy and then the good guy walks away, and then, like, you start to hear the bad guy laughing, and it reveals, like, he had some kind of bulletproof vest, and it's like, oh, a sequel. So I had that at, like, the end of the movie, and then, like, the guy's laughing, and the camera's, like, zooming in, and then there's, like, kind of like a, you hear the door kind of like clang back open, and then the camera pulls back out, and like the good guy's walking in and realizes the bad guy's still alive, and then shoots him in the head.
Yeah. Instead of just throwing knives.
Well, it's a different scene. Oh. It's a different.
It's like, I'm not going to let the bad guy's laughter resonate and then roll to credits. It's like, I better kill this thing.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
the point of this whole movie. That's
Yeah.
what was so nice about the Clint Eastwood like Dirty Harry movies from the 70s and 80s. It's like, yeah, the bad guy clearly got shot. It always was killed. It's like, I'm not gonna let this son of a bitch keep going.
So yeah, those last two things were scenes I wrote for movies I made, which I didn't make them, but yeah, I wrote the scenes. Those are good scenes. They are not good screenplays. So you see,
Yeah.
anybody can do this shit. Because I told you that stuff, and you see it immediately. You know that would be a cool scene in a movie. Both of those.
Yeah, you just have to work a whole rest of the
Yeah,
movie
yeah.
around it, which is
What?
like walking backwards up a hill.
Which is the genius of Tarantino, because all he does is just write those cool scenes and then just slaps them around until it makes sense.
I'm gonna write some crazy dialogue, and then we're gonna build a movie about it.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna actually make a movie within a movie about doing that. And it's all happening out of order
Yeah.
because I have dyslexia or I'm colorblind or something. I don't know.
Well, yeah, if you follow the 3 act structure, you have to have like kind of like lulls, and it's like, what if just every scene was cool, and it was the peak of the movie?
Yeah. And we don't have to show them driving to the crack house. We just have to show what happens at the crack house first, and then later on show them driving, pulling up in front of the crack house.
So yeah, Max falls to his death.
Hans Gruber moment off the Max Helmy Tower.
Lenny leaves Faith behind, so it's like, yeah, I saved you, but because this is where this still weird is like, because I was like, wait, was Faith in on this? And then ultimately, I guess yes, and it's like, well, that was a bad choice, but I guess her life was just going to be a series of bad choices because she's usually the victim.
She was just a junkie who became a singer.
Yeah,
like she was like some kind of prostitute drug addict who became a singer and kind of built, like, because he had some terrible line in the movie that only Ray Fiennes could deliver. It was like, "You made yourself, and you were always you," or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, I guess, but the life of a whore is a lonely life. No friends in the life of a hooker. Which for the few hookers I've met is like, yeah, it's probably true. They're not really like altruistic, or if they are, it's like, it's sad. It's because it's like, are you just going to get used?
Well, also it's like LA, so that's a lot of competition in the sex work industry there. So
yeah, LA is just the city of whores. It's literally and metaphorically.
Then we cut to the grunge concert where Steckler and Engelman are like giving chase on Mace. Steckler
there's still a movie going on. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes in.
Steckler just starts shooting people trying to get to Mace. But now he's just getting, now at this point, like, there's no like logic to him. He's like, this is what I'm willing to do. Like, I'll go to. He just, presumably killed
some for other shit.
Yeah, not this. And then Mace ends up getting like.
I mean, you'd be the king of the Aryan Brotherhood at Pelican Bay if you went to prison for shooting Jericho one in the head like that.
But then Mace ends up getting the upper hand and beats up Steckler, and then hits Engelman with a taser, and then she cuffs them both together, and then she holds a gun on them, and then SWAT shows up, and then points the guns at Mace, and so they arrest her and then start beating her up. She's like, "Yeah,
this is like the Passion of the Christ moment in this movie."
Yeah.
The black lady is being beaten by the white SWAT guys, like symbolically, and it's an extended scene. It goes on.
Yeah.
Every land of the truncheon is like every hit is recorded.
Yeah. And of course, it's like near the end of the movie.
Dramatic and stupid, and also like 100% believable too.
Yeah. There's, her beating up uniformed cops, and the other cops being like, "Yeah, let's listen to her." Like, yeah, that's not going to happen.
No, these guys are,
in no reality.
They got the helmets, they got the shields. It's like, now we're going to Pound Town, and
I don't think Pound Town is ever a good way.
But yeah, they're not having sex with her, I guess, is what I'm saying.
I know, but when you call it Pound Town, I don't think you're having. I don't think that's good sex. I think that's only bad sex.
It depends on how drunk you are.
That's illegal. No. um, then the crowd turn on the cops and start beating them up, and then a bigger riot happens. And then Strickland shows up, and so he presumably watched the vid or made one of his lackeys watch it. And so he has Steckler and Engelman arrested for murder. And then Lenny shows up to like help up Mace. And then Engelman grabs a gun, but then just blows his brains out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm out of this. And then Steckler, well, there's a moment where it's like, oh, like, were they lovers or something? Because it seemed like he's like, the way he's like pitched over the body, he's like, no, why did you do that? But then it's like, oh, that's not a thing. Because then he picks up the gun and he's just like dragging Engelman around like, you're a weight, you're an anchor to my revenge. Like, get off of me. Like, if he had like a sawzall, he would have cut his wrist off just to get away from this.
Yeah, I thought initially he was upset because they were. I was like, were they lovers? I was even thinking that too. It's like that'd be a weird twist in the mid '90s. It's like these two gay cops that are racist, but they're gay. It's like I don't know whether to hate them or not. What do I do? This is like the moral conundrums presented by The Boys in 1994. With this.
Yeah, so Steckler grabs the gun. He's just dragging Engelman's body, and then the cop shoots Steckler dead. So, then that's done with.
Well, let's not forget the last line of Steckler in the movie towards Angela Bassett is to call her the N-word.
Oh, I missed that part. I remember.
Oh,
that.
Yeah. He was like, God damn you. And he says it. And I'm like, no, that's a weird last line in the movie. It's literally some of the last lines in the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I forgot about that.
But then there's like, because this is like clearly like, into Die Hard stuff here. Like, again, like this whole, like, just mimic Die Hard here. Have the guy fall off the building, have a guy come back to life with a gun. Yep. Have somebody else shoot them.
And realize something about themselves. It's like, oh, we were beating up this lady. Now we're protecting her.
And there's a fake out with like Lenny getting shot, but apparently he just is exhausted and fainted. So.
And he also has like a big knife wound in his back.
Yeah. You see Faith getting arrested. Some army medics come up to like assist Mace and Lenny. I guess mostly Lenny because he's got the stab wound, but Mace did get pummeled by the SWAT team.
Yeah.
Then the New Year goes off. The vibe is surprisingly hopeful because that's supposed to be, the turnaround of this movie. It's like, see, the world didn't end and everything's going to be better. Lenny goes to the ambulance with his wound, and then Mace gets in a limo with Strickland. And then they start to take off, and then Lenny runs up to the limo and he grabs Mace out of the car, and so he gives her a New Year's Eve kiss.
Yeah.
And it's like technically a nice moment, but it's not earned at this point. But it's I guess it's
bloody and beaten. Let's make out. How's the inside of your mouth? You got any cuts? Through your lips?
But I mean, it's a good catharsis for these characters, not a catharsis for the movie. I think that's just the problem here. Like there's a lot of good setup here. This should have ended with like some amazing catharsis to make you think about the world, and it doesn't.
No, it wants to.
Yeah.
But it just cuts to Peter Gabriel and Deep Forest. It's actually a cool song. I'm underselling it. Go to YouTube and listen to it. Or don't. Or subscribe to YouTube Premium if you watch. If you look at your computer and it's like, what do I consume the most through? It's like, oh, I can cancel these 3 streaming services. I'm either watching videos about how to build models or like things that happen in lighthouses in the 1800s. Oh, well, I'm only going to get that content one place. And I also get access to YouTube Music, which I don't know what that does for me, but I can listen to music in the background all the time, which I don't do.
Just not interrupted by commercials, which I guess is a nice thing. So
it is nice.
Because that's why I avoid commercials on YouTube is that the commercials they have on YouTube are the absolute worst things I have ever seen.
Well, and they repeat themselves constantly.
Yeah.
It's like things you're not interested in. It's like vegan hair products or something. It's like, I don't use any of this stuff.
And the political stuff is garbage. It's like this is stuff saved for the internet. It's so bad we're not even putting it on the
I
airways.
don't get the political stuff. I was always getting like the laundry additives and stuff.
Yeah, I get that. And then the self-help stuff. It's like you can be a millionaire too. It's like, huh, this never ends, I guess.
I already know that. I already am. What are we talking about? We started our own podcast empire 15 years ago. We're up to 20 listeners. It's because
and two of them are real.
It's because we do great concept. Like I get drunk and walk off the show and piss halfway through it. It's like that's pro podcast stuff right there.
Yeah, we had so many asides. This probably will be our longest episode ever. But hey, whatever.
Oh yeah, it's like a
we had
3.5 hour episode about a movie we kind of like.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta see it. It's on. You gotta see it because it might disappear. You never know.
Yeah, watch Strange Days before it disappears for some weird reason.
It's on Max. Because I was looking up because I got the DVDs to watch Giant Mnemonic in black and white, and it's like, all right, well, what's the DVDs for Strange Days? It was like $206. Like, fuck that.
That sounds about right.
I don't know if it's back on sale on DVD or they got a Blu-ray coming out. I haven't looked, but it's on Max streaming. So
yeah, the only thing I went into with Strange Days was I was trying to like, hey, can I get the soundtrack again? And it's like I can buy the disc off eBay for like $20 or whatever. But yeah, the soundtrack, like to download it on MP3, you can forget it.
Well, we're sending a probe into space containing the supercut of the movies of the imperfect collection as the Verhoeven Effect. Nathan, what scene from this movie are we shoving into space?
When Mace finally jacks in and sees Jericho 1 killed.
Okay.
Because it explains like what's going on in the movie, what the technology is, and what the main drive of the movie is. And then, like I said, this movie has like 18 different plot threads that none of them satisfactorily resolve themselves. But I guess if you had to see something, that would be it.
I'm trying to think of. I feel like there's commentary or cool things about this movie I left out, but yeah, it's basically a forgotten movie because it did horrible at the box office. I'm not sure what Catherine Bigelow did after this, but she kind of seemed to disappear for a moment. Because it seemed like she disappeared and then it was like Hurt Locker. It was like this, then Hurt Locker. But let me look. She did some episodes of Homicide: Life on the Street. Then she did The Weight of Water. I don't remember that. Then K-19, The Widowmaker.
Yeah, I remember that was like sort of good.
Yeah. Then just some TV stuff. Then The Hurt Locker. Then Zero Dark 30. I don't know what Last Days is. And then Detroit. And then, I don't know where their latest stuff is. I don't know what I Am Not a Weapon is. Oh, it's a short movie. And it's doing commercials, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. She seems to be kind of selective, and she has a 7-year arc.
Yeah.
I mean, she did direct an episode of Wild Palms, which will always endear her to me.
What's Wild Palms?
Oh, you never heard about that?
No.
Oh, yeah, that was the Oliver Stone produced. It was kind of like a mini series. It was like kind of a retro future sci-fi. It was set in the year 2007, but it was basically about you had people. There were two political groups in America one was called the Fathers and one was called the Friends, and it was basically Democrats versus Republicans, and there was a bunch of weird stuff going on, and technology was a part of it. But the government was doing it had a lot to do with mass media and VR.
Huh.
But it was set in 1993. And it was based on a comic book from like 1990 or something.
Huh.
So I remember I liked it a lot when I was like, a teenager.
Well, her thing listed as in development is a movie called Aurora, written by David Koepp, who used to be like the most Hollywood writer ever. Then he disappeared.
Oh,
So,
okay.
um, because he had a stretch where he wrote like everything in Hollywood. Yeah, like Jurassic Park, Mission Impossible, Spider-Man movies. I think he wrote some of the, um, like, yeah. Let's see what he wrote here. He wrote, yeah, Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park, Carlito's Way, The Shadow, Snake Eyes, Stir of Echoes, Panic Room, Spider-Man, Secret Window, War of the Worlds, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, Angels and Demons. That one, the oh yeah, that was like, what was that? The Da Vinci Code. That was one of those
Yeah,
movies. You know, there's
yeah,
3 of those movies. I only knew 2 of them existed.
yeah, yeah. There are. I'm
um,
hearing about some of those.
yeah. So this guy used to write a lot of stuff, and then he kind of just, oh, he wrote the latest Indiana Jones movie. Okay, so I guess he's doing stuff. He tried to get in directing, and his directing efforts were just kind of okay. So I don't know. I doubt this is coming out. So,
Yeah.
Aurora, a divorced mother who must now do everything she can to protect her teenager and her estranged brother, a wealthy Silicon Valley CEO who has built a luxurious bunker in the desert for such a disaster. So yeah, this just seems like the sequel to Panic Room or something.
Oh, okay.
Because Quep wrote that as well. So, um, well, if you like what you heard and how couldn't you can find us at verhoeveneffect.com. You can give us a monthly stipend of either 99 cents or 99 or 9.99.
But I'm gonna need that. I might be on strike this month. I wouldn't think about that.
And all the money goes to us. It doesn't unless we pull it early. Then some of it goes to Lime. I can't even remember what the thing is. You can whatever podcast platform you're listening on, which is a lot of things. I found out we're an Audible. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is good. That makes me feel like special.
I
'Cause
mean,
I buy things off there.
we're already on Amazon, so it's essentially the same thing. I just
Yeah.
you can rate our podcast whatever you want, but remember the algorithm only listens to the highest rating. Remember, you control the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't control you. You can find us at Twitter or X or whatever at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on Facebook at Verhoeven Effect. You can find us on YouTube at American Greed Factory. You can watch both this and that show live and unedited. And I still haven't fixed it, so if you want our latest stuff, you're going to have to go to the live tab. That's where the latest videos are. Our video tab is weird because it's only stuff I uploaded. The last time I uploaded stuff is because we didn't I don't know, for some reason I had to like record a video live and then I had to put it up later on and it wasn't broadcasted live, and so that's the latest video in the video section because it's the last one uploaded, and live content doesn't go to the home video section because it's separate. So I don't know why it's done that way, but that's how it's done. So if you want our latest stuff, go to the live tab, which I believe that stuff's in order. That stuff gets screwed up as well. So
Last time I checked, it was in order, and that was before we started the show. So, as of 5 hours ago, or whenever we started this, it was in order.
Okay. Um, and then, yes, you can find our t-shirts at belowthecollar.com/greed factory. And if you go to, oh, I'm forgetting what it's called. Oh, man, what's that thing called? It's like a,
What does it do?
it's like an app where you like review films like very quickly.
I don't know about that one.
Oh, what the hell is that called? Ah,
Rotten Tomatoes?
no. They send me stuff. It's like, we got your rushes in, and then because they're trying to act like it's a Hollywood studio system. I don't know. I haven't even used it in a long time, but I guess people use it, so I guess I should. There's a lot of things we don't know. Like we could probably get better, surface stuff if we were on, like TikTok, but like I don't know, I'm just weird about TikTok, so I just don't do TikTok. So
Hey, I'm willing to do anything as long as it doesn't involve me having to talk to anyone or interact with anyone. Once you eliminate all those possibilities, it's like, yeah, I'm not doing anything. So,
it's letterboxed. So it's like letterbox with a D at the end.
okay.
So our account is Greed Factory, all one word. So if you search that, you can see movies that I've watched and reviewed. And well, I don't review them, but you can review them. But I've just put star ratings on stuff like that. So I guess eventually I need to start putting the Verhoeven. Actually, well, I don't know, I'm just giving away stuff. I probably need to make the Verhoeven account for that, and then that'll make sense. All right, that's the next time. I'll get the letterbox Verhoeven account going, and then that's another section of the movie we can do. Is like, all right, Nathan, 1 out of 5 stars. What do we give this?
All right. Yeah. Hey, anything for a buck.
All right, Nathan, 1 out of 5 stars. What do we give Strange Days?
2.5.
2.5.
Yep. There's some great ideas. It's a movie where I watch it and I try to like expand the world in my own mind, even though the movie itself, as it gets towards its end, becomes less and less satisfactory.
All right, all right. Well, for
That's what I would say.
for the Verhoeven Effect podcast, I'm Conlon.
And I'm still Nathan.
Goodbye, America.